Chapter 1001. There was no need to mention Wang Yu's attack power. As Wang Yu's signature move, Thunder Stomp had long since been maxed out by Wang Yu. As for its proficiency, it was at the peak of perfection. Not to mention fragile archers, even shield bearers and paladins, who were known for their thick skin, would have their HP reduced to a critical level. As the lightning spread, a circle of dazzling white light lit up around Wang Yu, frightening everyone. Everyone had long heard that Wang Yu was extraordinary and that he could instantly kill people. Now that they saw it, it was even more frightening than the rumors. There were close to 1,000 people below, yet he jumped down just like that. Putting everything else aside, just his courage alone was not something an ordinary person could compare to. Of course, none of the people present were weaklings. Everyone's main target for the raid was Wang Yu. Now that they had seen the person in question, how could they turn around and run away like cowards like, "War is peace. Spread out. Spread out." At this moment, no one knew who shouted, but the archers used their advantage in agility to spread out, intending to pull away from Wang Yu. Trying to run, Wang Yu smiled and leaped up, activating her flaming tornado kick. Whoosh! The flames rolled out with the sound of wind. With Wang Yu as the center, all the archers within a 500-kilometer radius who did not have time to run away were sucked to his side and then kicked into white light. The archers were all running away, so they did not see the tragedy behind them. However, outside the circle, the assassins who were watching the battle not far away were all terrified. For the moment Wang Yu appeared until now, only a few seconds had passed. Moreover, Wang Yu had only attacked twice. Yet these two attacks had killed dozens of people. Although these people did not think highly of each other, it had to be said that, to be able to stand out among the various large guilds, these people were all top-notch elite experts, and there was not much difference between them. However, Wang Yu's two attacks had directly killed so many people, making everyone present feel an unprecedented pressure. Damn it, even if we're all squishy professions, we can't die so easily. Even a boss wouldn't be this powerful. As expected of Yu Huiqing's city lord, he was indeed as shocking as the rumors said. At that time, the outermost archers had already taken advantage of Wang Yu's attack to escape from Wang Yu's attack range. Then, they turned around, nocked their arrows, and raised their bows to shoot. Just now, Wang Yu was on the roof, and the archers were all below, so they could only shoot at one point. At this time, the archers were all around Wang Yu. This wave of shooting suddenly caused countless arrows to fly over from all directions. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu raised his left hand, and the boxing glove turned into a round shield, which he flung behind him to protect his back. At the same time, he held a long sword in his right hand and stabbed it into the arrow, swinging it up and down. Dang, dang, dang. The sound of arrows hitting shields could be heard. Hearing this sound, everyone couldn't help but feel happy. However, when the arrows dispersed, they saw Wang Yu standing with a shield on his back and a long sword in front of him. He was tall and imposing, and the arrows under his feet were particularly eye-catching. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes instantly changed from joy to dullness, and then from dullness to horror. This is not a King human. At this time, everyone couldn't help but think of this. Apart from the dozens of people who were kicked to death by Wang Yu, there were still hundreds of archers present. Even if everyone's coordination was not good, to be able to take all the attacks of so many people head-on, how could this be done by a human? It had to be said that sometimes a powerful force had a more direct deterrent effect than winning a war. Not only did Wuji come up with a plan, but he also deployed his troops to block these players for so long. Everyone was still eager to try, and there was no fear in their hearts. Wang Yu had only exchanged a few moves with these people, but she had already shattered everyone's worldview. Why was there no World War III? It was all because of the nuclear deterrence. After all, victory and defeat were common in war, and a momentary loss was not enough to be considered a hero. However, once nuclear weapons were used, it would definitely be a devastating blow. Seeing Wang Yu's bravery in invading the players, the fear in their hearts was no less than the neon militarism that had been baptized by atomic bombs. Facing Wang Yu alone, Nearly 10 million players couldn't help but swallow their saliva, and their foreheads were full of cold sweat. Especially the archer players. They now didn't know what the meaning of their existence was. The assassin players were even more disdainful. Damn, say the archers. He's not afraid of long-range attacks at all. F***CK. If you say I can't do it, then you do it. The archers also refused to be outdone and scolded back. Useless. The assassins cursed in their hearts and turned invisible one after another. Mfumph. Seeing this, Wang Yu smiled faintly and leaped up into the sky. Then he pushed his palms down in midair, and a huge wave fell from the sky, slapping toward the crowd. At this time, everyone remembered the palm technique that fell from the sky. Boom! As the huge wave fell to the ground, the air lit up with a white light. Wang Yu took a step in the air and flew up into the sky, looking down at the crowd with a smile. Still want to fight? Run. At this time, War is Peace shouted from the corner of the street. If they had a full set of classes with so many people, they might have dared to fight with Wang Yu. However, for the convenience of sneak attacks, all the classes here were fragile, and they didn't have crowd control. Wang Yu could also be close or long range, and he could instantly kill someone with a raise of his hand. How could anyone still have the desire to fight? Seeing Wang Yu's smiling expression, everyone's hearts were filled with fear. Hearing War is Peace's words, this time, not only did they not look down on War is Peace, but they also turned around and ran away without another word. Archers and assassins were all agility classes, so they naturally weren't afraid of running. With so many people running like wild dogs, it was a strange sight. However, just as they ran around the corner, they heard War is Peace's "huh." Everyone hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound, and instantly everyone almost fell to the ground. Right in front of everyone, Wang Yu was leaning against the wall, picking his nose sloppily, as if he had been waiting for a long time. No, impossible. Isn't he a grandmaster of combat? How can he run so fast? Seeing Wang Yu in front of them, everyone's emotions were indescribable. In terms of running, archers and assassins were naturally better than others, but this person in front of them had completely subverted the system. Just as everyone was panicking, War is Peace looked up and down at Wang Yu. Then his eyes fell on Wang Yu's chest. Then he frowned and suddenly pointed at Wang Yu not far away. Everyone, don't be afraid, this is fake. Huh? Wang Yu was slightly stunned, then laughed. Hey, you really are a F***king genius. Kill him. Chapter 1002. Fake. Hearing War is Peace shout, everyone realized that there was something wrong with this iron ox. Although the two looked exactly the same, the iron ox just now had a much more serious temperament, while this one had a wretched look in his eyes. Moreover, in terms of equipment, the two iron oxes were very different. The one just now was dressed in kung fu equipment, looking very simple and elegant, while this one was dressed in top-grade equipment, sparkling and tacky. Most importantly, the badge on this iron ox's chest wasn't an Inyong fish. War is Peace was also an expert. If it wasn't for a pervert like Wang Yu, normal people wouldn't care about War is Peace. This mission, War is Peace, originally planned to work and not slack off, but the fake Wang Yu was really scared. War is Peace. How could such a shameless act be tolerated by War is Peace? So he directly attacked. Reality told us that not only could dogmatism kill people, but empiricism could also kill people. War is Peace thought that the fake in front of him couldn't withstand a single blow, but he was met with tragedy. This fake was naturally no one else but the famous evildoers Run Wild. Although evildoers Run Wild wasn't as fierce as Wang Yu, he wasn't a good person either. Seeing that War is Peace punched, evildoers Run Wild took a step back to increase the distance between them. He found an opportunity and suddenly attacked. The next moment, a palm the size of a palm fan pressed on War is Peace's head. Immediately after, evildoers Run Wild grabbed War is Peace's head and pushed it against the wall beside him. War is Peace's face was pushed a few meters away from the wall before turning into a white light. A duel between heavyweights didn't require much technique, but the visual effect was definitely shocking. Seeing two big guys fight, especially when they saw War is Peace die tragically, All the audience couldn't help but feel a chill down their spine. Damn, who said this is fake? Run. Following that, everyone turned and ran in another direction. But after a few steps, they suddenly saw a cloud of pink fog in front of them. What is this? Someone asked in confusion when they saw the pink mist. At this moment, the others urged, "Why do you care what he is? You could just run. What if it's an ambush? Ambush your sister. Are there 2 iron ox chasing after us?" The person behind them suddenly exclaimed, "What?" Everyone hurriedly turned their heads and saw 2 people who looked exactly the same chasing after them. F***. One Wang Yu is already not someone they dare to face, let alone 2. With such a formidable enemy in front of them, they didn't care so much anymore and plunged into the pink mist. And then there was no then. This pink fog was the unique, illusory magic formation created by the godfather of Qiuanjin, Mr. Wuji. Until now, no one had ever come out alive after entering it. After this elite team of thieves entered, they immediately lost their way. At the same time, magic arrows fell from the sky, accompanied by assassins' sneak attacks and all sorts of explosive potions. Real enemies weren't scary. What was scary was being surrounded and not being able to see the enemy's face. Moreover, these people hadn't slept the night before and weren't in good spirits. On the other hand, Qiuanjin's people were at ease, waiting for them to tire themselves out. Fighting was a battle of vigor and spirit. Not only was the group of attackers in poor spirits, but after being frightened by Wang Yu and evildoers run wild, their mental defenses were on the verge of collapse. Now that they were ambushed by Qiuanjin's people, their morale completely collapsed. After a series of bombardments, the pink fog gradually dissipated. There were less than a few hundred players left, their faces covered in dirt. Seeing Qiuanjin's people in front of them, everyone revealed expressions of despair. Then, they were greeted by Qiuanjin's second wave of attacks. This time, it was a completely one-sided battle. These attackers only wanted to end the battle as soon as possible and didn't even think about fighting back. In just a few rounds, these guys were wiped out and sent back home. At this time, the players from the big guilds who knew that Yu Huiqing's main city was unguarded had already regrouped to the Sunset Valley. After gathering, nearly 1 million players simultaneously advanced in Yu Huiqing's direction. Just as 4 trees make a forest expected, this time, the attackers didn't encounter any resistance from Yu Huiqing's players. Yu Huiqing's players didn't even appear. 4 trees make a forest was extremely pleased. He waved his fan and said, "Looks like they've already returned to defend. Everyone, hurry up, don't give them time to prepare." Got it. After hearing 4 trees make a forest words, all the guild leaders gave orders at the same time to speed up and attack in Yu Huiqing's direction. In less than 10 minutes, all the guilds had already passed through the defensive line of Yu Huiqing's players in the Sunset Forest and arrived outside of Yu Huiqing City. At this time, in Yu Huiqing City, Wuji was also arranging tactics. Daoshua, go hide near the revival point. Old Fish, go hide in the inn. Second Brother, notify Blood Red War Flag and the others to come online. Everyone else, follow the original plan. And everyone nodded and went their separate ways. At this time, the attackers had already entered the city without any resistance. At this time, for trees make a forest set again, tell everyone the first thing after entering the city is to set up a return point at the revival point and the inn. Otherwise, if we die, it won't be so easy to come back in again. In fact, it was common knowledge for every player to enter the main city and register. There was no need for 4 trees make a forest to specifically remind them. All the guild leaders had already reminded their subordinates. Therefore, the first thing the players did after entering the city was to register. Twilight City was already a bit of a squeeze to accommodate 300,000 players, let alone 1 million. At this moment, the main city's streets and alleys were filled with players attacking the city. In addition, after players entered the city, the deep-rooted bad habits of the large guilds resurfaced, and they began to fight both openly and covertly. The registered guilds did not give way, and the unregistered guilds were anxious. Therefore, Setting up the revival point was not as fast as expected. Just as everyone was in a stalemate, Wang Yu appeared on the roof. "Hey everyone, have you eaten?" Wang Yu greeted everyone condescendingly. When everyone looked up and saw Wang Yu on the roof, they could not help but be furious. "Eat my ass. I haven't even slept." However, at this time, For Trees Make a Forest suddenly pointed at the roof and shouted through the loudspeaker, "This is the Castellan of Yu Huicheng. Don't let him escape." Hearing For Trees Make a Forest words, everyone was shocked. F***CK? This bastard is so bold. He actually dares to provoke us? Seeing their target standing so arrogantly in front of them, they didn't want to occupy the latrine anymore. They all started to chase after Wang Yu. Ha! Wang Yu let out a weird cry, turned around, and ran. Those who had set up the revival point rushed to chase after him. Chapter 1003. Seeing Wang Yu on the rooftop, the people below were stunned. Didn't one run away just now? Why was there another one? But since there were so many of them, they wouldn't be afraid even if there were 10 more, let alone one. So, another wave of players chased after them. Less than a minute after they left, the same face appeared on the rooftop again. F***CK. This time, everyone felt that something was wrong. They couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines as they guessed. F***CK, what's going on? Why is there another one? Just as everyone was panicking, a group of Wang Yu appeared on the rooftops around them. Some of these Wang Feather were holding staffs, some were carrying bows and arrows, and some were carrying two-handed swords. There were all kinds of them, and there were all kinds of professions. After showing their faces on the roof, they scattered in all directions. What the F***CK is going on? The players were completely dumbfounded. Just then, For Trees Make a Forest shouted, "Don't be afraid, everyone, it's a disguise." Who's the real one? Everyone was puzzled. Their ultimate target was Wang Yu, and now that 8 or 9 of the same people had appeared, they were at a loss. For Trees Make a Forest said, "We have so many people, who cares who's the real one? Just kill them all." In the face of absolute power, all schemes were useless. Now that there were so many players that they could fill the main city, they naturally didn't care how many people they could capture. After all, the real city lord couldn't leave the city. So, all the players began to scatter and chase in all directions. No one had experienced what it felt like to be targeted by nearly 1 million people. Even when Xuanjin was at his most suicidal, he was targeted by all the players in the server. At that time, the server's capacity was limited, and a server could only have 100,000 people at most. Now that they were surrounded and blocked by nearly 100 players in such a small space. Even if they could fly, they wouldn't be able to last long. Soon, the clumsy warrior class, Bao 3, was the first to be captured, blocked at the resurrection point. Before long, Chunxiang was drowned in the player's human wave attack. To place one's pride, exquisite dream, Yang Na and the others were also killed one after another. Other than Baiming Yu and Mingjian Daoxua, the 2 assassins who could turn invisible, only the 2 brothers, Wuji and Wang Yu, survived. Wuji was a sensible person. Seeing that he couldn't escape, he used a flying spell and flew back to the resurrection point in front of everyone. With the illusionary snake in Wuji's hands, the players had suffered quite a few losses in his hands. Now that they saw this bastard running back to the safe zone, without dying even once, everyone was furious. Wuji looked at the countless players who were stomping their feet and scolding him outside the resurrection point. Not only was he not angry, but he was also very proud of himself, as if he was being cheered by countless people. Yu Huicheng is going to be gone soon. What are you so proud of? Seeing Wuji's smug expression, For Trees Make a Forest asked coldly as he waved his fan. Wuji smiled and said, "Is that so? Do you think that you small fries can capture our Yu Huicheng's Castellan?" For Trees Make a Forest snorted coldly. Bones in the grave, capture them alive sooner or later. For Trees Make a Forest was now commanding millions of players, so it was reasonable for him to be full of confidence. If it were anyone else, there was no reason to lead millions of players to capture one person and still think that they had no chance of success. Is that so? Wuji continued to smile. What do you think? Four trees make a forest also smiled. Your people are going to be wiped out soon. Just now, four trees make a forest had already received news from his subordinates that the last two people had been blocked in the middle of the square. The real Wang Yu was not protected by the resurrection point. With so many people surrounding him, he did not believe that he could escape. Ha! Wu Ji laughed. You overestimate yourself. Humph. You're still so stubborn even when you're about to die. Four trees make a forest rolled his eyes at Wu Ji and no longer paid attention to this stubborn guy. At this time, the square was already full of people. Even the roofs of the surrounding buildings were filled with archers and wizards, of course. These long-range professions could only watch. Their attack range was not enough. Moreover, because there were too many players, these long-range professions did not dare to attack for fear of accidentally injuring their allies. Therefore, the ones rushing forward were all melee players. With so many players, the encirclement had long been compressed to the minimum. Without long-range professions attacking, there were only 8 or 9 people who could really attack. In this environment with unlimited stamina, with Wang Yu's skills, a mere 8 or 9 people's attacks were of course nothing to him. Moreover, at this time, there was also evildoers run wild behind Wang Yu. The two brothers, Wang Yu, stood back to back and fought in circles. Every time they attacked, they would take away a life. From the moment they were surrounded until now, the white light around them had not stopped. Seeing such fierce two people, the surrounding players also realized that the situation was strange. With the current situation, with these two people's skills and equipment, if they did not use long-range professions to attack, who knew who would be the one to die? F***CK, 398th. These two bastards are really flawless. On the roofs in the distance, seeing the flashing white light, Wine Pool and Meat Forest was speechless. In the past, Wine Pool and Meat Forest had heard of Wang Yu's name, but it was just a rumor. They never dared to believe that there was someone who could be so overpowered as to fight 100 people alone. However, seeing this scene, Wine Pool and Meat Forest were completely convinced. What made Wine Pool and Meat Forest even more terrified was that two such overpowered people had appeared at the same time. Who was this guy? At this time, White crossing the river frowned and said, "Boss, there are already people retreating. If we let them continue like this, we will die sooner or later. Hurry up and order the long-range professions to attack." Okay. Wine Pool and Meat Forest was also a decisive person. Hearing White crossing the river's words, Wine Pool and Meat Forest sighed and sent a city-wide loudspeaker. Since we can't take them down, don't bother about hurting our allies. Long-range professions, focus fire. The long-range professions in the periphery watched the two brothers, Wang Yu, slaughter for 5 minutes and had long been suppressing a ball of fire in their hearts. Now that they received the order, they did not say anything and all used their ultimate skills. The attacks of the long-range professions covered all directions. In such a narrow space, even if Wang Yu was an immortal that had descended to the mortal world, he would not be able to dodge. The wave of attacks fell. Evildoers Run Wild was hit into white light. Wang Yu's barrier was broken, and then the magic attacks from behind arrived in an instant. Gritting his teeth, Wang Yu took out a red ribbon and hung it on his body. Then, with a stomp of his foot, he leaped into the air. Seeing Wang Yu jump, Wine Pool and Meat Forest could not help but laugh. Still trying to run? With so many people, even if you can fly, we can still shoot you down. Holy shit, what is that? Just as Wine Pool and Meat Forest finished speaking, all the players at this time cried out in surprise. Chapter 1004. There was an old saying in China, "A cooked duck flies away again." Everyone usually thought of this saying as an exaggeration. After all, a duck could not fly in the first place, not to mention a cooked one. However, now that they saw Wang Yu fly away, everyone was stunned and realized that this saying was not a joke. When they came back to their senses, they could not help but curse. F***CK. What the F***CK? Mother f***cur. What the F***CK? After fighting for so long, so many people had died, and he flew into the sky with just a flap of his wings. Anyone would be cursing. This was especially so when they saw Wang Yu flying in the sky like a fighter jet, gliding in a fancy way to provoke the players below. Everyone was angry and envious. Why don't you fall to your death? Ha! Seeing Wang Yu's fancy provocation in the sky, Wuji laughed and asked Four Trees make a forest. What do you think? I told you guys can't do it. Oomph. Four Trees make a forest looked at the time and said with a red face, I don't believe he can fly in the sky for another day. The cloak's attributes were publicized on the forum. Although Wang Yu's cloak was different, it could not stay in the sky forever. Wuji heard this and said with a smile, Then you wait. Just wait for our people to come, and you'll all die. Hearing Wuji's words, For Trees Make a Forest's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Due to the withdrawal of players from other small guilds and independent players, there were now only 1 million players left in Yuhuicheng. Although this number was far more than the original players of Yuhuicheng, they did not have the absolute advantage in numbers like before. From the beginning, it could be seen that the Yuhuicheng players had a better grasp of Yuhuicheng's geographical advantage. Moreover, the attacking players hadn't slept all night, and the Yuhuicheng city players were waiting for them to tire themselves out. If the Yuhuicheng players returned to defend, they would have a threefold advantage over the enemy. Moreover, the Yuhuicheng players were all locals. After dying, they would revive in Yuhuicheng. On the other hand, the attacking players were all foreigners. After dying, they would revive in another main city. With this, the Yuhuicheng players would quickly gain an absolute advantage. Therefore, if they wanted to win, they had to occupy the resurrection point first. Thinking of this, Four Trees Make a Forest quickly sent a message to the other guild leaders. Everyone, quickly occupy the resurrection point. Yuhuicheng's players are coming back. These guild leaders were also very smart. When they saw Four Trees Make a Forest message, they immediately understood what Four Trees Make a Forest meant. They all called for their guild players to run to the resurrection point. Wuji sat at the entrance of the resurrection point and watched coldly. The attacking players worked for almost an hour. Finally, all the players had set the resurrection point to Yuhuicheng. Only then did the guild leaders let out a long sigh of relief. At the same time, Wang Yu had also landed on the top of the church near the resurrection point. Seeing this, the attacking players climbed up the wall. Wuji saw this and smiled slightly. He walked up to Four Trees Make a Forest and said, Hey, are all the resurrection points set up? Four Trees Make a Forest heard this and laughed coldly. That's right. I don't believe you have any other ideas this time. My condolences. Wuji shook his head and reached out to pat Four Trees Make a Forest's shoulder. Four Trees Make a Forest was at a loss. Just then, a series of announcements floated across the system. To move unhindered 21 to launch a garrison battle against the Eastern Han Dynasty. To move unhindered 44 to launch a garrison battle against the White Emperor Pavilion. To move unhindered 78 to launch a garrison battle. A series of announcements, one after another, almost covered the entire screen. After occupying the screen for a full 10 minutes, the announcements gradually faded away. These announcements were all the same. To sum it up in one sentence, to move unhindered, launch a garrison battle against all the guilds present. At the same time, the players of the guilds who were launched into the garrison battle also received a system notification. To move unhindered, everyone present was called out. Why is this happening? After receiving the system notification, everyone was dumbfounded. To move unhindered. Why was this happening? To move unhindered. Although they were the largest organization in Rebirth, they always cared about money and not people. They persistently stationed themselves in the various mines. As long as their interests were not infringed upon, these people would not have any conflicts with other guilds. To move unhindered. This was the rule that was set after destroying several guilds since the start of the game. To move unhindered. Everyone had always been very harmonious and minded their own business. To move unhindered. No one would have thought that move unhindered would stab them in the back at this critical juncture. However, it was too late for regrets. All the players of these guilds were bound to the resurrection point of Yuhuicheng. Moreover, Yu Huiqing's teleportation point was locked by the system. Even if they wanted to run, they would not be able to. Damn it. We should retreat before their people arrive. We should still be able to make it in time. The guild leaders shouted. Sorry, Wuji laughed. Right now, the entrance is filled with our people. I'm afraid you won't make it in time. After hearing Wuji's words, everyone suddenly realized that they'd been King tricked. The expressions on their faces became incomparably complicated. Especially 4 trees make a forest. He was originally full of confidence, but now he was completely flustered. He did not even dare to play with the fan in his hand. It was fine if he was stupid, but he also led so many people to be stupid. They might even be annihilated. Thinking of this, for trees make a forest hurriedly shouted, You can't blame us for this. To move unhindered, you shameless bastard. 4 trees make a forest was indeed a tactical player. His heart was dirty. With a single wee, he pulled himself back to the front line. After hearing 4 trees make a forest words, everyone's spearhead immediately shifted to the move unhindered. After all, it was normal to be tricked. What everyone was more furious about was that to move unhindered as the attacking party, they actually defected to the enemy at such a crucial moment. The traitor was far more despicable than the enemy. Motherf ****. To move unhindered, you bunch of treacherous scum. To move unhindered, I'll ****CK all 8 generations of your ancestors. To move unhindered, everyone started cursing. Hee. Looking at these defeated attacking players, Wuji laughed coldly. You bunch of trash. You attacked others, and you're not allowed to fight back? What's wrong with that? Bullsh ***T. To move unhindered, when did we attack? Everyone said with bloodshot eyes. They were not fools. To move unhindered, as long as one was not sick in the head, who would dare to attack them? To move unhindered and declare war on them? To move unhindered, they were just taking advantage of the fact that the people who moved unhindered were not around to scold them. They did not dare to attack them. You didn't attack? Wuji smiled faintly. He pointed at evildoers Run Wild, who had climbed onto the roof of the church and was chatting happily with Wang Yu. To move unhindered boss, evildoers Run Wild, was beaten to death by you guys just now. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, this monster boss is the younger brother of our Castellan. Chapter 1005. What? When 4 trees make a forest, and the others heard Wuji's words, they were stunned. The expressions on their faces became extremely complicated. Looking at the appearance of Wang Yu and evildoers Run Wild, everyone knew that Wuji's words were not groundless. Other than their temperament and attire, the 2 of them seemed to be carved from the same mold, be it their abnormal skills or their small movements. Who knows? They might even be twins. No matter how many possibilities they thought of, they did not expect that a dignified big boss to move unhindered would actually have such a relationship with Chu Anjin. Everyone's countless eyes stared at Wang Yu and evildoers Run Wild on the roof. They were dumbfounded and did not know what to say. Motherf ****, what is going on? You cheated. 4 trees make a forest was probably dumbfounded from anger. He pointed at Wuji's nose and said something that even his underlings thought was childish. Cheated? Wuji was so angry that he laughed at 4 trees make a forest. Wuji sneered and asked, Did I ask you to attack the city or kill evildoers Run Wild? As soon as Wuji said this, 4 trees make a forest, and the others were speechless again. Attacking the city was a system activity. In fact, the ultimate goal was Wang Yu. Killing evildoers Run Wild was a misunderstanding. Who asked these 2 to look so similar? However, the current situation was no longer a matter of misunderstanding. After all, there were 2 masters above. One was evildoers Run Wild, and the other was evildoers Run Wild's elder brother. To move unhindered no matter who it was that they were targeting. To move unhindered for no reason. Who the ****CK could they go to reason with? After thinking about it for a while, he realized that the only person they could blame was the system. If the system hadn't organized the siege, who would have provoked these demons? Of course, everyone was just cursing in their hearts. The system represented the absolute power in the game. To move unhindered if you offended it, you would be killed a few times at most. But if you offended the system, you would be done for. Shit, 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 shit. At this time, the presidents were definitely in a bad mood. What did it mean to suffer in silence? What was unspeakable bitterness? This group of people had probably never experienced such bitterness, even after playing the game for so long. To move unhindered players, they were already at the gates. Everyone's guild encampment was in a precarious situation. 4 trees make a forest, and the others were even thinking of deleting their accounts. What to do? What to do? At this point, they were meat on the chopping block. How could they still be in the mood to attack the city? In an instant, everyone's fighting spirit collapsed, and they were completely at a loss. Looking at this group of panicking people, Wuji sneered. What else can we do? If you still want to fight, we'll keep you company to the end. We don't dare, we don't dare. Hearing Wuji's words, everyone waved their hands. What a joke. Everyone was trapped in Yuhui-chung and couldn't get out. To move unhindered, these bandits were famous for being greedy. They would probably empty out the warehouse. As long as they were not stupid, they didn't need anyone to teach them what to do. The presidents directly chose to admit defeat. You guys fight when you say you want to, don't fight when you say you don't. Do you think that we, the players in Yuhui-chung, are easy to bully? Wuji said again. Hearing Wuji's words, everyone wanted to cry. Boss, what do you think we should do? Wuji was speechless. F***CK. How did you become presidents with such IQ? Do you need me to teach you what to do if you lose the war? Do you know how to compensate us? Actually, it wasn't that these people couldn't remember, but their brains were still in the process of moving unhindered. To move unhindered, it couldn't be helped. They had pushed to the high ground and prepared for victory, but their home was suddenly gone. No one would be able to accept this in a short period of time. Compensate. We'll compensate. The presidents nodded. To move unhindered, the strongholds of the major guilds were in their hands. Not to mention compensation. If they could compensate their chrysanthemums, these people might not dare to refuse. Sure, Wuji nodded. We, the Chuanjin, have always been benevolent. Since you've admitted defeat, we won't kill you. However, your invasion is a disrespect to the sovereignty of our main city, and the impact is very bad. Correspondingly, you have to pay a heavy price. No objections, right? No objections. No objections. Everyone nodded. Seeing that everyone is so happy to admit their mistakes, I won't say anything else. How about 100 gold coins per person? Hearing Wuji's words, everyone spat out a mouthful of blood. Although 100 gold coins wasn't a lot to the players of these major guilds, with the current exchange rate, it would be close to 5,000 renminbi. That was nearly a month's salary for an ordinary person. They had traveled thousands of miles to come to Yuhui-chung, died a few times, and had to pay 100 gold coins for nothing. No one would feel good about it, especially now that there were millions of players attacking the city. 100 gold coins per person was not a small sum. Big bro, isn't this a little too much? The presidents said with some heartache. Too much? Wuji said. Our Yuhui-chung has 300,000 players. This bit of money isn't even enough to pay for their death. Moreover, your actions have destroyed the ecosystem of our Yuhui-chung. This is all money. But most of the people who died are our people. Everyone cried. After fighting for so long, the number of players that died in Yuhui-chung could be counted on one hand. Hearing this, Wuji pointed at evildoers run wild on the roof and said, "This isn't about the number of deaths. Evildoers run wild was killed by you. How can you talk about this?" This. Everyone looked at evildoers run wild and shuddered. Then they said gloomily, "What's this about destroying the ecosystem? Invaders had no human rights. No matter how many people died, they deserved it." This was something that everyone admitted. But what the hell was destroying the ecosystem? Wuji said coldly, "Xiao, you didn't kill our Yuhui-chung's monster? It was such a cute monster. How could you do it? The fire in the Sunset Valley hasn't been extinguished yet. Do you know about the smog?" This. Everyone vomited blood again. You were the one who started the fire. Even if we started it, it was because of you. Stop talking nonsense. If you keep talking nonsense, each person will get 200 gold. Wuji frowned. No, no, no. 100 gold it is. Seeing that Wuji was a little impatient, the guild leaders were really afraid that evildoers run wild would give the order and snatch them away. They had no choice but to agree. Fortunately, 100 gold was distributed among so many players. It wasn't too much. Although everyone was angry, it wasn't to the point of no return. For the sake of the guild, everyone had to bear with it. Although Chuanjin had done all kinds of bad things, they were very trustworthy. After receiving the compensation, Wuji immediately ordered Blood, Red War Flag, and the others to let them go. These losers naturally didn't want to continue to stay in this sad place. One by one, like frosted eggplants, they left Yu Huicheng in an extremely orderly manner. Come and play when you have time. In the end, Wuji even waved goodbye. Chapter 1006. Come down, you two. How much longer are you going to continue chatting? Wuji couldn't help but shout when he saw that the attackers had retreated and the Wang Yu brothers still had no intention of coming down. When the two of them heard this, they looked down and then jumped down from the roof. At the same time, the other members of the Quanzhen sect also came out. The group surrounded Wuji in the middle. What do you think? How was it? How much did those bastards pay? Obviously, compared to the safety of the main city, everyone was more concerned about how much money Wuji had cheated. Not much, not much. 100 gold per person, Wuji said, smiling. To place one's pride, he could not help but say, crap, this isn't your style. Why is it only 100 gold? Are you blind? Chun Xiang patted to place one's pride's head and said, it's 100 gold per person. 100 gold per person? To place one's pride's eyes widened. Aren't there millions of players attacking the fortress? Yes. Wuji nodded. Doesn't that mean? To place one's pride was speechless after hearing Wuji's words. After a long time, to place one's pride exclaimed excitedly, 100 million gold coins. If converted to RMB, wouldn't we be the richest people in the world? Dream on, Wuji said in disdain. Didn't you see the director of the banknote printing factory say that he is the richest man in the world? To place one's pride was rendered speechless by Wuji's words. Game coins were similar to banknotes in that their purchasing power was fixed. Without gold reserves, everything was meaningless. The more they were printed, the closer their purchasing power would be to waste paper. This was finance, and no one would understand it. Of course, Uncle Nyo wouldn't understand it either. Anyway, that was the meaning. Moreover, this thing had to be exchanged for RMB to be useful. Otherwise, it would just be a set of numbers in the game. No prodigal young master would dare to buy 100 million game coins. I've said so much to explain why game coins are getting cheaper. Don't think that game coins are equivalent to RMB, and don't think that RMB will always be the same. Oh, I've gone off topic. Then Wuji added, besides, not all of these gold coins belong to us. Half of them belong to the defenders, right? Of course, of course. Everyone nodded in agreement. Even though Wuji was a shameless fella who loved to scam people, he was never stingy towards his teammates. Since they were comrades, even if there were some conflicts in the past, he would not be stingy towards them. This was something that everyone knew. What about me? What about me? To move unhindered, since we've helped you out so much, why don't you split the rest of the money with me? Evildoers run wild interrupted. Wuji said, Evildoer boss, our old cow is your biological brother. You're still charging money for helping your brother? TSK. Evildoers run wild said in disdain. Between brothers, we should settle accounts clearly. Wuji pondered for a while and said, if that's the case, you should also pay us advertising fees. Advertising fees? What advertising fees? Evildoers Run Wild was confused. You have so many shards. If Old Cow didn't fly around in the sky, do you think people would pay a high price for them? CK, it's not a big deal. He's my brother. What's wrong with advertising for me? Evildoers Run Wild was furious. Between brothers, we should settle accounts clearly, Wuji said with a smile. CK, you're ruthless. Evildoers Run Wild gave Wuji the middle finger. Ha ha. Seeing evildoers run wild expression, Wuji laughed and said, I'm just joking. How about I give you 1,500 out of the remaining 5,000? That's too little. I think it should be at least 2,000. 1,000. Wuji smiled and took back the change. Evildoers Run Wild was anxious. F*CKU. Didn't you just say 1,500? Deal. Wuji smiled and passed the money over. Evildoers Run Wild took it with a bitter expression. Seeing Evildoers Run Wild's expression, Mingdu urged, Hey, old devil, the big guild's bosses haven't returned yet. You can let your underlings clean their warehouses. Evildoers Run Wild rolled his eyes at Mingdu and said, What do you know? Leave some leeway in case we meet again in the future. Wang Yu laughed and said, That's what I taught you. Indeed, the gaming world was a strange place. It was hard to say when someone would shine and someone would fall. For a guild as big as Unhindered World, it was only natural that it would have its fair share of problems. If it really offended all the guilds, it was hard to say when it would incite public outrage. When that time came, the people who would throw stones at it when it was down would be enough to drown the evildoer. As all the players left the siege, an announcement sounded in the game. System announcement. Year XXXX of the Rebirth Calendar. Under the leadership of Castellan Iron Ox, Yu Huicheng has successfully defended against the Army of Light and escaped the protection of God. It has become the first neutral main city to be liberated in the reborn continent. Their great figures will forever be recorded in history. As usual, the system announcement flashed 3 times in a row. All the players who saw the announcement had a look of disbelief on their faces. Yu Huicheng, with only 300,000 players, had actually defeated many and successfully defended against the joint attack of so many main cities. Such a battle record was absolutely unimaginable. In particular, the Yu Huicheng players who were defending the city had tears of excitement in their eyes. Not for anything else, but because everyone was still alive. If they had defended against the attack of one city, it would have been fine. As the defenders, their chances of winning were still very high. However, this time, they were almost the enemy of the whole world. Even though Wuji and the guild leaders had said that they were very optimistic, everyone had naturally prepared for the worst. Now, this result was definitely something that even they had not expected. Of course, this was also what they deserved. At this time, the keyboard warriors on the forum were wailing. Before the siege war began, some people had opened bets on the forum and placed a huge bet on Yu Huicheng to win. The keyboard warriors were all good at talking. From 100 starting points, they analyzed that Yu Huicheng would definitely lose. At this time, there was no reason for them not to accept the free money, so they all placed big bets. The result could be imagined. In short, cherish your life and stay away from gambling. Next, the system would give out rewards for defending the city. First, it was the main city reward. As the first independent main city, all the players in Yu Huicheng would have their levels increased by 5 levels. All the players who participated in defending the city would receive the title of Independent. Independent, title, Hero's Mission. All experience gained within the independent main city would be increased by 100%. The so-called all experience included the experience gained from killing monsters, mission experience, and so on. It could be said that it was quite practical. Needless to say, there was no need to mention the increase of 5 levels. What made people unhappy was that those who ran away at the last minute could also receive this reward. In fact, this was also normal. After all, there were people who defended the country, and there were people who sat back and enjoyed the fruits of others' labor. Chapter 1007. In addition, today's date was also set as Yu Huicheng's Independence Day. On this day of every month, they would receive double EXP. These are all normal rewards. What excited everyone the most was that Yu Huicheng's players were all in the neutral faction. In addition to the right to not be invaded by the light and dark factions, the neutral faction also had its own faction exchange system. It did not have to fight with countless people to exchange for items like the other 2 factions. Moreover, The players in the neutral faction could freely enter any of the main cities of the two factions without being attacked. Of course, being in a neutral faction did not have all the benefits. For example, some battlefield missions and war missions could not be done in the neutral faction. Everything had its pros and cons. As the Castellan of Yu Huicheng, Wang Yu's rewards were naturally more abundant. In addition to a large amount of reputation and honor, Wang Yu also received a Castellan's token and a scepter. Yu Huicheng's token, precious item. The holder can freely enter and exit most neutral factions without being attacked. The neutral faction was a faction with many strong players. For example, Dragon Island, the Elven Ancient Tree, and Titan City had many forbidden areas that ordinary players could not enter. With this token, Wang Yu was basically on the same level as the Castellan of these main cities. Naturally, his privileges were much greater than ordinary players. Castellan Scepter, Special, King's Command. Within a range of 1,000 meters, all attributes of players in the main city will be increased by 50%. Can be carried. Item description. Only a king can wield this power. The halo effect of the scepter was not bad, and it did not take up much of an equipment slot. However, for a lone ranger like Wang Yu, the Castellan scepter was not very useful. But it was better than nothing, and he could not just throw it away. Next, it was time to split the spoils. Oh no, to split the money. The compensation for the siege this time was more than 100 million gold coins. Other than the 15 million that was given to evildoers run wild, there was still 85 million. After some discussion, everyone decided to fork out 50 million to reward the players who defended the city. Just as Yu Huicheng's players were immersed in the joy of victory, Wang Yu used the Castellan's authority to make an announcement. Everyone has worked hard in defending the city. Xuanzhen has decided to reward the three armies with their own money. All players defending the city, please come to the Castellan's mansion to receive the Castellan's red packet. There's a red packet? These players were already satisfied that the city had not been massacred. Not to mention, they had also received so many rewards for defending the city. Now that they heard that Xuanzhen was going to reward everyone at its own expense, everyone was overflowing with happiness. They suddenly felt that they were fortunate to live in such a main city. With the system's help, the players defending a city all had the title independent above their heads. It was obvious who had defended the city or not. Everyone only needed to keep track of which player had received more than one. Therefore, just like the beginning of the collection of shards, the Xuanzhen police went to work together. Some gave out money, some registered. Although it was much faster than collecting shards, it was still very tiring. Wuji, you idiot. Why don't you just give the money to their president? Do we have to give it out ourselves? Mingdu was already feeling bad that he had to give away the glistening gold coins. Now that he had to work, he was naturally in a bad mood. What do you know? Wuji said, let their president give it out? Who does the favor belong to? We can't just pay for someone else to be the good guy. Hearing that, Mingdu did not say anything else. Indeed, if the money was given to the president, they might embezzle a lot of it. Even if they did not embezzle it, it would probably be a gift to the Buddha at someone else's expense. Anyway, the money had been spent. If they could not even maintain their reputation, it would be too much of a loss. Hearing that they had defended the city, Yu Huicheng and the other players who did not participate in defending the city also went online. When they saw the players with the title independent above their heads receiving red packets from the Xuanzhen police players, they went forward to ask about it. There was no need to mention the regret in their hearts. From the moment they won the city, they were busy until late at night. Finally, Xuanzhen police was done. In the end, evildoers run wild patted Wuji's shoulder and said eagerly, Boss Wuji, do you want to join me? I will give you a high salary. Wuji spread his hands and said, money is indeed a good thing. Although I'm not very rich, it is enough to support me to do what I like to do. What do you mean? Evildoers Run Wild was a little confused. What do you mean? Wang Yu reprimanded. Wuji does not lack your money. Get lost, get lost. What a pity. Evildoers Run Wild shook his head regretfully. In fact, this group of people in Xuanzhen was like this. They liked money, but they would not be slaves to it. This kind of freedom to do what they like and occasionally get some small benefits was the most desired state of life. Although Chuanjin was still the same Chuanjin, the money attack did not go to waste. After a day of hard work, the original bad reputation of Chuanjin in the mouth of the players in Yuhuicheng was completely changed. From arrogant and domineering, they became loyal, rich, and powerful. After this incident, countless people turned from haters to passers-by and passers-by to fans. This castellan, Wang Yu, became even more of a legend in everyone's eyes. The legends on the internet continued, but everyone could not bear the fatigue and went offline to rest. The next day, when Yuhuicheng finally returned to peace, other than the legends about Chuanjin changed, nothing else changed. After going online, Wang Yu went straight to the alley where Hermit lived to accept the level 50 advance mission. According to the game's plot, level 50 was the threshold for a player to advance from a normal person to the peak of their profession. Therefore, they encountered a bottleneck in training. Only by awakening could the unlimited potential in their body be stimulated. Therefore, generally speaking, people called this threshold as awakening. After awakening, not only would the player's attributes and skill power increase greatly, but they would also learn their own awakening skills. This was a little different from the closed beta. During the closed beta, skills like Shadow Chain Kick and Fierce Dragon Slash were awakening skills. However, after the official release, there was a large influx of players in the free mode. Therefore, the awakening mechanism was redesigned according to the player's awakening evaluation. As for the awakening skills and their power, it would also be determined according to the Russian awakening evaluation, ranging from F to S. Even if it was a low-level fireball, it was not rare. Of course, even if it was a fireball, it would only be an awakened fireball. It was the most suitable skill for the player after the system's calculation, so it could not be underestimated. Although this kind of awakening mechanism felt like it depended on luck, it was definitely more flexible than the awakening methods that the players had no choice. In the alley, Hermit was as drunk as ever. After waking him up according to the old rules, Wang Yu received his own awakening quest. System notification: you have received the first round of the awakening quest, The Brave's Trial, 100 victories. Quest rank S. Mission details: 0 out of 100 consecutive wins in the arena. Chapter 1008. 100 consecutive wins in the arena. This mission was indeed a nightmare for normal players. After all, the arena's mechanism was to be matched by the system. The higher the winning streak, the more experts they would meet. Players who played the arena all year round were also people with extraordinary skills. Most of them were professional gods. If they won a few more matches, they might be able to meet first-rate professional players. Therefore, the arena's waters were always deep. Even first-rate experts could not guarantee that they would not lose. Of course, individual battles were easier. If they did not meet good teammates in group battles, it would be even worse. However, for Wang Yu, 100 consecutive wins was not a big deal. After receiving the mission, Wang Yu didn't say anything else and went straight into the arena. In the arena, Wang Yu had stayed for a period of time when he was farming smelting stones, so he was not unfamiliar with the controls. When he came to the individual battles, he activated matchmaking mode. However, because Wang Yu had never lost in matchmaking in the arena, his win rate was 100%. Therefore, according to the system's rules, the opponents he was matched with were players with high win rates. With a flash of white light, Wang Yu was sent into the arena. Then, he symbolically opened the opponent's interface and looked at the opponent's information. Stewed green plum wine, level 47, assassin, 78% win rate, 4,114 matches. I met an expert in the first round. Looking at the opponent's information, Wang Yu could not help but feel happy. At this stage, first-rate players were around level 45. Basically, other than Yu Huicheng's players, level 47 was a professional expert who did not care about the world. Not only that, this person had more than 4,000 matches and had a win rate of 78%. It could be said that he was very strong. After all, the number of matches was there. Wang Yu was also an expert who had experienced hundreds of battles. Naturally, he would not understand this logic. At the same time, the opponent stewed green plum wine saw Wang Yu's ID and was slightly stunned. Iron Ox? Isn't that him? I heard he's an expert. I wonder what his win rate is, he muttered to himself. Stewed green plum wine glanced down, and his eyes fell on Wang Yu's win rate. Win rate, 100%, 148 matches. F*CK. Seeing Wang Yu's win rate, stewed green plum wine was shocked. Although Wang Yu did not have many matches, only 148, a 100% win rate was definitely not something an ordinary person could achieve. Green plum wine had been playing in the arena for a long time. After so many matches, he was very familiar with the arena's settings. Once a player's win rate reached a certain level, the system would select an extremely powerful expert to be matched with. Even an expert like green plum wine only had an 80% win rate at best. Then, after a few matches, he would be eliminated by others. There were only two possibilities for a 100% win rate. Either the player's strength was invincible, or the system would always arrange a match with a noob. The former relied on heaven-defying strength, while the latter relied on heaven-defying luck. Of course, luck was also a part of strength. A person with good luck could not be judged by logic. Therefore, no matter which type of opponent he faced, it would be quite terrifying. Thinking of this, stewed green plum wine quickly turned invisible. Then, he looked at the map and moved in the direction of Wang Yu. As an assassin, stealth was their #1 battle form. Especially against an opponent with a 100% win rate, stewed green plum wine naturally did not dare to let his guard down. 100 matches were not difficult for Wang Yu, but it was quite troublesome. Even if it were 100 steamed buns, it would still take him a while to finish them. Seeing that his opponent was an assassin who could turn invisible, Wang Yu simply stood there and did not move, saving his opponent from not being able to find him and wasting time. Stewed green plum wine had fought in so many competitions, so his combat IQ was terrifyingly high. Seeing that Wang Yu had not moved from the position marked on the map, stewed green plum wine immediately became vigilant. Staying still was a newbie's move, but if the opponent was a normal newbie, then so be it. Stewed green plum wine would definitely rush over and insta-kill the opponent. However, not only was his opponent not a newbie, but he was also the famous Iron Ox with a 100% win rate. With such an opponent standing there, if stewed green plum wine mindlessly stabbed him, then it would not be him. Could it be that I've stuck my eye out? Stewed green plum wine touched his chin and guessed inwardly. The most important way to deal with an assassin was to break the assassin's stealth skill. Sticking one's eye out and waiting in place was also a tactic. Dealing with such a tactic was not difficult. Under normal circumstances, the range of a detect guard was only 1,000 meters, and there was also a time limit. So, as long as one stood far away and waited for the detect guard's duration to end, it would be fine. However, an expert player like stewed green plum wine naturally had a better way to deal with it. After settling down in place, stewed green plum wine quietly walked in the direction of Wang Yu. Not long after, Qing Mei saw the legendary Iron Ox. At this moment, Wang Yu was sitting there with a golden knife in his hand, looking like he was waiting for something to happen. Stewed green plum wine snorted, held his dagger upside down, and moved forward. At that moment, Wang Yu suddenly raised his head, his two large eyes looking in the direction of stewed green plum wine. Seeing Wang Yu's gaze, stewed green plum wine was shocked. Meow, could it be that this guy can see me? Then, stewed green plum wine looked at the distance between himself and Wang Yu and frowned. That's not right. I'm still far away. It must be a coincidence. Thinking up to this point, stewed green plum wine flipped his left hand, and a 4-pointed dart appeared in his palm. Storm Shuriken, a rare assassin skill. Throwing several darts at the target at once, it was one of the few skills used by assassins to attack the target from afar. However, at this moment, Wang Yu suddenly stood up and ran in the direction of stewed green plum wine with large strides. F*CK. Do I have eyes under my feet? Seeing this scene, stewed green plum wine could not help but be shocked. He threw the shuriken at Wang Yu, and instantly, a wave of darts flew toward Wang Yu like rain. At the same time, stewed green plum wine turned around and ran away with swift steps. Faced with stewed green plum wine's dart blocking the way, Wang Yu did not even stop and directly rushed toward the dart. The moment the dart hit him, Wang Yu casually waved his hand and grabbed all the dart in his hand. Then, with a wave of his hand, Wang Yu threw the dart back, and all of them pierced into the back of stewed green plum wine. Unfortunately, the dart was a skill-exclusive item, and Wang Yu did not have any skills, so the dart in his hand was no different from a stone on the ground. One dart pierced into stewed green plum wine's neck, but stewed green plum wine's health bar did not even move a bit. Stupid game. Seeing this, Wang Yu could not help but sigh, and once again leaped forward to chase. Chapter 1009. An assassin's speed was extremely fast when in the state of quickness. Wang Yu had only been distracted for a moment, but the stewed green plum wine had already run more than 10 meters away. By the time Wang Yu caught up with the stewed green plum wine, he had already run to the corner. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu clapped with his cloud catcher fist. A white light flew out and went straight for the stewed green plum wine's back. The stewed green plum wine was very sensitive. Before the white light could grab the stewed green plum wine, the stewed green plum wine quickly rolled forward, dodging Wang Yu's cloud catcher fist. Then he activated stealth and disappeared into thin air. He really is an expert. Seeing that the stewed green plum wine had dodged his cloud catcher fist, Wang Yu could not help but be stunned. He was extremely excited. There was no helping it. There were too few players in the game who could withstand a few moves from Wang Yu, let alone a decent expert. The stewed green plum wine skill was not much lower than the people of Chuanjin. After bullying noobs for a long time, Wang Yu was also very bored. Now that he had met such an expert, he was naturally very happy. However, the stewed green plum wine was not as easy as Wang Yu. The two moves that Wang Yu had just made stewed green plum wine break out in a cold sweat. Damn, it was lucky that he had activated sharp senses, which allowed him to detect the danger behind him. Otherwise, he would have been captured. The stewed green plum wine was an expert with very high combat skills. After dodging Wang Yu's attack and going into stealth, the stewed green plum wine did not look back and continued to run forward. Stewed green plum wine did not look back. Wang Yu immediately lost track of the stewed green plum wine. He instinctively continued to chase, but at this moment, he heard a click. The sound of a trap activating came from under his feet. In Rebirth, there were only two professions that could play with traps. One was the lurker archer, and the other was the item thief, the type that threw Molotov cocktails. These two professions were extremely troublesome in PvE, but PvP was extremely disgusting, especially the item thief. Not only did the traps last a long time, but they also had a poison effect. Coupled with the true damage of the potions, it was extremely painful. Hearing the sound of the trap being activated, Wang Yu hurriedly jumped up. But at this moment, green plum boiled wine suddenly appeared in front of Wang Yu. With a wave of his hand, he threw a few green bottles over. Wang Yu had used this green potion before. Although other classes didn't have the same bonuses as a thief, Wang Yu knew how disgusting this thing was. Not only did they explode upon contact, they also had AOANs in stew the rain. Green plum boiled wine was also sinister. He knew that his opponent would not be able to freely change direction in midair, so he waited for his opponent to jump before throwing the bottle. Of course, that was only for normal players. In front of someone like Wang Yu, who could change the direction of a player, it was impossible to rely on common sense. Of course, that was only for normal players. In front of someone like Wang Yu, who could topple a player's worldview, it was impossible to PvP with common sense. Just as the potions were about to hit Wang Yu leaped into the air and changed his direction to avoid the stewed green plum wine's attack. Seeing this, green plum wine froze for a moment. Then, she clenched her teeth and threw the medicine bottles one after another at Wang Yu. Wang Yu smiled and immediately appeared in front of the stewed green plum wine. F***CK. Stewed green plum wine screamed and quickly retreated. Wang Yu grabbed the stewed green plum wine's wrist and twisted the stewed green plum wine's arm behind his back. Then he picked up the stewed green plum wine and threw it against the wall. Stewed green plum wine hit the wall with a dull thud. Then a tree stump fell to the ground. Cicada shedding. A thief's escape skill that can block one fatal attack. Not bad, not bad. Wang Yu nodded his head in satisfaction. Just as he was about to give chase again, he suddenly felt his feet sink and he couldn't move. Wang Yu looked down and saw that there was a clamp at his feet. Ha! This stewed green plum wine was indeed an expert. When attacking from afar, he didn't forget to place a clamp in front of him. This insidious skill was worthy of being a thief. As Wang Yu sighed, stewed green plum wine appeared again and threw 3 bottles at Wang Yu. The red bottle was a Molotov cocktail that dealt high damage. The blue bottle was a frost cocktail that reduced movement speed, and the green bottle was a poison cocktail that reduced movement speed over time. Not only that, the 3 bottles had mixed damage. For example, the ice cocktail and fire cocktail increased damage. The ice cocktail and poison cocktail increased movement speed, and the fire cocktail and poison cocktail increased movement speed. The damage dealt by the 3 bottles at the same time was due to the thief's profession bonus, which was no lower than the damage dealt by an assassin's combo. This was also why thieves were more disgusting than other classes. However, the cost of making potions was not cheap. In PvP, players didn't have high health. With a fixed true damage bonus, a few waves of potions could kill a player. In PvE, the fixed true damage was a pain in the ass. Because of this, there were very few thieves. Wang Yu was caught in the trap and naturally couldn't move. Looking at the flying bottles, Wang Yu pulled out a gun and aimed at the bottles. Bang! 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 After 3 gunshots, red, green, and blue smoke appeared in the sky. F***CK. What kind of monster is this? Seeing the smoke in the sky, stewed green plum wine was stunned. As the saying goes, bow knife, stone, horse, footwork, and sword. Bow and arrow were not easy to practice. In Rebirth, the easiest class to learn and master was the archer. Due to the system's shooting support, everyone dared to play the archer. However, there were only a few people who were really good at it and had the confidence to shoot moving targets. However, it was unheard of for a fighter like Wang Yu to shoot 3 moving targets. Stewed green plum wine was unheard of. It was important to know that other than the archer, the shooting weapons of other classes didn't have shooting support. Wang Yu fired 3 shots in a row, and all 3 of them hit the target. His skill was shocking. Bang! Bang! Stewed green plum wine was still in shock when 2 more gunshots rang out. Stewed green plum wine felt a chill in his head and was sent out of the arena. Sigh, why did you force me to use a gun? Wang Yu shamelessly blew the smoke from the muzzle and was sent out of the arena. Stewed green plum wine's classmate was completely shocked by Wang Yu. Even after he was sent out of the arena, he still maintained his stunned expression. Seeing stewed green plum wine's expression, stewed green plum wine's companions couldn't help but surround him and ask, "Stewed green plum wine, what's wrong?" Hearing his companion's shouts, stewed green plum wine came back to his senses. He quickly shook his head and said, "No, nothing. Nothing. Why are you acting like this? Did your opponent do a striptease?" Everyone laughed. "No, it's scarier than that. Guess who I met?" Stewed green plum wine said mysteriously. "Could it be that you met your girlfriend?" Everyone was confused. Stewed green plum wine said, "It's 100 times scarier than her. I met Iron Ox." Chapter 10:10. Iron Ox? Which Iron Ox? Hearing the words stewed green plum wine, everyone was stunned. These people had been in the arena all year round, so they didn't care much about other things. Although they had heard of Wang Yu's name, they were still a little dazed when they suddenly heard it. Which Iron Ox could there be? It's Yu Huicheng, that Iron Ox. Stewed green plum wine curled his lips. Oh, hearing this, everyone couldn't help but be surprised. Really? How was it? Which of you won just now? Is there a need to ask? Looking at Old Wine's face, I know he lost. An archer who was dressed similar to stewed green plum wine laughed. Yes, green tea is right, I lost. Stewed green plum wine said with lingering fear. That guy's really as good as the rumors say. Hearing stewed green plum wine say this, everyone's face showed a look of surprise. Everyone knew stewed green plum wine's personality. Although this kid was cautious, he was a competitive and arrogant guy. No matter who it was, stewed green plum wine would not be convinced. Of course, stewed green plum wine also had the capital to be arrogant. Being able to fight a few rounds with Wang Yu and having a 78% win rate of 4,000 matches was enough to prove it. Everyone had been with him for so long, but they had never seen him admit that he was not as good as others after losing. Is that so? Seeing stewed green plum wine like this, green plum tea at the side had a face full of disbelief. Stewed green plum wine's strength and equipment were all first-line professional level. Moreover, with such a personality, unless someone was far better than him, he would not be convinced. At the end of the day, Wang Yu was an expert who had been famous for less than half a year, and he had never participated in any serious professional matches. Even if he had won the 7-server competition, he was at best a passerby king. If it was said that Wang Yu was very strong, then stewed green plum wine would not doubt it. However, if it was said that a player like Wang Yu was far superior to a first-rate professional expert, even if it came from the mouth of stewed green plum wine, green plum tea would still doubt it. Stewed green plum wine and said, "If you don't believe me, why don't you give it a try? That fellow is a little uncanny. You might not believe me even if I told you. Just a single glance from him makes you feel like you're going to die." This, everyone looked at him in disdain. "You thieves, who doesn't see you all like this? Meow, I'll die from just one look. Even GMs can't be so perverted." Green plum tea was also a person who could not stay still. Seeing that stewed green plum wine was so ridiculous, he became more and more interested in Wang Yu. Therefore, he shouted anxiously, No, I have to see this legendary expert." Following that, Green Plum Tea opened the interface, searched for Wang Yu, and issued a challenge. At this time, Wang Yu had just killed a substitute dog. When he saw Green Plum Tea's challenge, his heart was once again happy. Stewed green plum wine, green plum tea. It seemed that these two people should be in the same group. The assassin just now was not weak, and his teammate was definitely not much worse. Thinking up to this point, Wang Yu happily clicked accept. After a few seconds, the two of them were teleported to the arena. Since it was Green Plum Tea who initiated the application, Green Plum Tea habitually set the map to the forest terrain that was most favorable for archers. As soon as he entered the map, Green Plum Tea immediately went into the dense forest and then stared at Wang Yu's every move from a distance. However, Wang Yu saw another terrain that could hide, so he found another place to sit there without moving. What does this guy mean? Seeing Wang Yu's behavior, Green Plum Tea was a little confused. Although the number of Green Plum Tea's matches was not as many as stewed green plum wine, he had also played more than 3,000 matches and encountered all kinds of players. When facing an archer, no matter who it was, the first thing to do was to find a cover to prevent being beaten up by the archer. At the very least, he had to move back and forth so that the opponent could not aim. This guy was good, sitting there at a fixed target. This was simply not putting his opponent in his eyes. No wonder stewed green plum wine said that this guy was strange. Now that he looked at it, he really did not play by the rules. "Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." Stewed green plum wine muttered to himself and pointed at Wang Yu. A red skull appeared on Wang Yu's head. Death Mark, an archer's talent skill. This skill was a low-level skill that could be automatically learned at any time at level 0, but its power was not inferior to any of the archer's ultimate skills. After the target was marked, the archer shot would cause 550% damage to the target, and the target would be marked for the next 7 seconds. The target marked would receive 30% more damage. In PvP, once a player was marked, they would quickly retreat or run behind their teammates to avoid being shot by the archer. However, Wang Yu was still sitting there as if nothing had happened. Green Plum Tea saw that Wang Yu was so arrogant and frowned. He drew his bow and knocked an arrow. With a creaking sound, a thick arrow spun and shot towards Wang Yu. Resounding shot. An archer's rare skill could cause the target to be stunned and slowed down. The damage was also very scary. Green Plum Tea's arrow arrived in front of Wang Yu in the blink of an eye. Dong! With a muffled sound, the thick arrow hit the tree trunk behind Wang Yu, but Wang Yu had disappeared. Where is he? Green Plum Tea was stunned and hurriedly glanced to the side. Suddenly, the hair on his back stood up. At this time, Wang Yu was rushing in the direction of Green Plum Tea. The distance between them was less than 15 meters. F***CK. Green Plum Tea was shocked and hurriedly retreated. As he retreated, he shot in an attempt to stop Wang Yu's footsteps. From this, it could be seen that this guy really did not understand Wang Yu. Archers were the most powerful agility profession. At this time, in the forest with poor visibility, if Green Plum Tea blindly ran forward and did not look back, Wang Yu would soon lose track of Green Plum Tea, no matter how powerful his perception was. But Green Plum Tea wanted to kite Wang Yu like a kite. The direction of the arrow was equivalent to telling Wang Yu his position. When it came to running, Wang Yu was afraid of running. In just a few seconds, Wang Yu caught up with Green Plum Tea. His right hand rubbed out a chi wave and threw it at Green Plum Tea. Green Plum Tea dodged to the side in embarrassment, avoiding the chi wave. He put his finger in his mouth and whistled. Hearing Green Plum Tea's whistle, a question mark suddenly appeared on Wang Yu's head. Meow, you're about to die and you're still acting like a hooligan? What kind of spirit is this? Just when Wang Yu was puzzled by Green Plum Tea's behavior, suddenly a murderous aura came from behind Wang Yu. Chapter 10:11. Seeing the yellow shadow pouncing at him, Wang Yu did not pause at all. He rolled on the ground and dodged the yellow shadow's attack. At that time, Wang Yu also saw the yellow shadow's appearance clearly. The creature was over 3 meters long, with pointed ears, fangs protruding outwards, and a scarlet tongue dripping with saliva. It was clearly a cheetah. Aya! Seeing Wang Yu dodge the cheetah's attack, Green Plum Tea could not help but be shocked. He immediately ordered the cheetah to attack. The cheetah roared and pounced at Wang Yu again. Just now, Wang Yu was slightly embarrassed because he was not on guard. Now that Wang Yu was on guard against this cheetah, he would not act the same way as before. Facing the cheetah that pounced at him, Wang Yu did not dodge. He stepped forward, flipped over, and kicked the cheetah's stomach with thunderstomp. The cheetah was originally pouncing forward. At this time, it was pushed back by the knockback effect of Wang Yu's thunderstomp. It directly hit its head on a tree. Wang Yu landed on the ground and turned around. Without the slightest hesitation, he followed closely behind and jumped on the cheetah's back. The cheetah seemed to be quite unhappy that Wang Yu was riding on its back. It struggled to throw Wang Yu off. Wang Yu coldly snorted. His left hand used Tiger Strike and fiercely grabbed the cheetah's neck. The back of a feline's neck was originally a weak point. With Wang Yu using the grab skill, the cheetah was immediately pressed to the ground by Wang Yu. At this time, Wang Yu raised his sandbag-sized right hand and fiercely punched the cheetah's eyes and neck. When a feline was grabbed by the neck, its throat would be strangled, so it could not make a sound. The poor cheetah meowed a few times and was beaten to death by Wang Yu. Uncle Nyo has many years of experience fighting tigers. Little children, please do not imitate. Damn! Green Plum Tea almost cried when she saw her cheetah die. This cheetah was a pet that he had been guarding for several days. He had raised it since it was young and had a deep relationship with it. But now, it had been killed by Wang Yu. From birth to death, it had not even been 5 seconds. Was this guy a boss? After killing the cheetah, Wang Yu charged at Green Plum Tea without saying a word. Green Plum Tea hurriedly raised his bow and knocked an arrow. A row of arrows flew toward Wang Yu. Seeing this, Wang Yu did not panic. He leaped up to dodge, but at this moment, a red arrow had already flown in front of Wang Yu. Finding arrow, the essence of a long-range profession, lay in prediction. Especially for an archer, a profession that did not have many directional skills, the requirement for prediction was higher than other professions. Green Plum Tea was such an expert. Needless to say, his prediction ability did not need to be mentioned. When Wang Yu jumped, green plum tea, had already shot this binding arrow. When Wang Yu jumped, the binding arrow had already flown in front of Wang Yu. Green plum tea clenched his fist and secretly said, "Humph, this time you are finished." Chapter 10-12. Just like that, Wang Yu stayed in the arena for the entire day. He didn't do anything else other than being challenged by Stewed Green Plum Wine's group. The outcome was needless to say. Although these guys had improved a little, if they wanted to defeat Wang Yu, even if all of them attacked together, they were still a little short. "Are you still coming tomorrow?" Seeing that Wang Yu was about to leave, Stewed Green Plum Wine and the others were a little reluctant. After a day of torture, they had developed feelings for each other. What kind of feeling was that? "No, maybe another day. I've completed my mission." Wang Yu waved his hand and added a few people as friends. "Mission? What mission?" Stewed Green Plum Wine heard and asked curiously. 100 consecutive wins. Wang Yu said calmly. 100 consecutive wins. Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone took a deep breath. Meow, as expected of a crazy person. Everything he did was crazy. Even a mission was so scary. "And, if there's nothing else, I'll go offline first. My wife is calling me to sleep." Wang Yu said, "No, nothing else." Hearing Wang Yu say that, Stewed Green Plum Wine and the others didn't want to pester Wang Yu anymore, so they quickly replied, Then let's play together when we have time." After saying that, Wang Yu went offline on the spot. The next morning, Wang Yu came out of the arena and went to the alley to hand in his mission. Today, Old Man Hermit was especially energetic. Seeing that Wang Yu didn't wait for Wang Yu to speak, he nodded and smiled. "And not bad. I believe you've fought 100 consecutive battles. Then, are you familiar with the fighting style of other professions?" "Yes, teacher. I learned a lot in the arena, but I'm still confused. I can't find a way to break through," Wang Yu replied as he recited his lines. Hermit smiled and said, "Fist techniques are the foundation of all techniques. Learning from the strengths of hundreds of techniques and mastering them is the foundation of a grandmaster of combat. You haven't found a way to break through yourself because your realm is too much higher than your opponent's. So you need to talk to a real master to understand the new realm of martial arts." System notification. You have completed the first segment of the Awakening Quest, Brave's Trial, Victorious Battles. Quest evaluation. S. You have obtained the title, Invincible. You have obtained an exclusive item, Martial God's Keepsake. Invincible title, Invincible. Arena earnings plus 15%. Wang Yu looked at the title's attributes and casually hit it. This lousy title was the best attribute for someone who spent most of his time in the arena, but for someone like Wang Yu who rarely went to the arena, it was useless. As for the Martial God's Keepsake, there was nothing special about it. It didn't even have any attributes. The name was just an introduction. After putting away the title and keepsake, Wang Yu asked Hermit, "So what should I do next?" Hermit said indifferently, "Of course it's to pay a visit to a powerhouse." Although that powerhouse doesn't have a good temper, he had a good relationship with a martial god in the past. "I believe that he won't make things difficult for you." "Make things difficult?" Wang Yu was stunned. It sounded like a trap. "Oh no, I mean he will definitely teach you." Hermit quickly changed his words. At that time, Wang Yu also received a quest notification. System notification. You have received the first round of the Awakening Quest, the Brave's Trial, the Powerhouse's Teachings. Quest rank S. Quest details. Go to Dragon Island and find the strongest dragons, Dales, and ask him to teach you cultivation. Quest notification. Dales is a cruel dragon. His strength is even higher than the Holy Dragon King. Please do not anger him. Are you kidding me? Seeing the quest notification, Wang Yu suddenly felt that he had been fooled. Wang Yu was no stranger to dragons. Wang Yu even had the title of Dragon Slayer, and he had once been hated by dragons. As for the strength of dragons, Wang Yu knew better than anyone else. Whether it was in the game, in novels, or even on TV, all creatures that were related to dragons were basically not weak. To this day, Wang Yu still remembered the boss called Dragonblood Spear God in Celestial Dragon City. Such an overpowered existence was only a low-level dragon hybrid. Even so, the strength of the Dragonblood Spear God could be ranked in the top of all the bosses that Wang Yu had fought. It cannot be helped. As long as it was a dragon, it was born to be several levels higher than others. This was the bloodline. Needless to say, Dragon Island was where all the dragons gathered. Dragons were also the most terrifying group of creatures in the neutral faction, especially the Holy Dragon King, which was in existence on the same level as the Divine Light God. The strength of Dales was even higher than the Holy Dragon King. One you cannot believe it. He was only doing a level 50 awakening quest. Did he have to disturb such a terrifying thing? Besides, Wang Yu still had the Dragon Clan's arrest warrant on him. Wasn't going to the Dragon Island, courting death. Speaking of which, can I not go? Thinking of this, Wang Yu asked gloomily. You can. Hermit nodded and said, but you will be judged to have failed the quest and be stuck at level 50 for the rest of your life. *T. Wang Yu wiped his sweat. It's fine if I get another strong person to guide me. Why must I go to Dragon Island? The hermit explained, the awakening of every hidden profession requires the personal guidance of the most powerful mentor. I'm just taking the war god's place to guide you in your cultivation. I'm powerless when it comes to matters like breaking through to the next realm. Lord War God has been missing for many years, so you need to find an expert of the same profession as him to guide you. Only then will you be able to bring out the highest standards of this profession. Of course, if you want to find someone else, I can't guarantee what kind of guidance you'll receive. I'm just saying, Wang Yu said with a smile. Awakening was a lifelong event. Even though Hermit looked like he was about to die, he was on par with the teachers of the other 6 hero professions. Even with his strength, he didn't dare to easily guide him. It could be seen that the difficulty of Wang Yu's quest was innately higher than others. Wang Yu only knew a limited number of top-level NPCs. His upper limit was Arceus. That guy wasn't a grandmaster of combat. What if he guided him to become a warrior with a hammer? With the shamelessness of the system, it wasn't impossible for it to do such a thing. Now that things had come to this, he had to venture into the tiger's den. Wang Yu sighed and left the alley. The exact location of Dragon Island was east of Celestial Dragon City. As for how to get there, Wang Yu specifically asked a friend who had been in Celestial Dragon City. Counterattack Tiger seemed to have a special teleportation circle in the courtyard of the Celestial Dragon City Master's residence that was directly connected to Dragon Island. Counterattack Tiger warned Wang Yu in every possible way. The creatures on Dragon Island weren't friendly. It wasn't a wise choice to go there for a stroll. Wang Yu said, what can I do? I'm also very desperate. I still have a wanted poster hanging here. If it wasn't for the F*King system, I wouldn't want to go there for a stroll. Chapter 10:13. His condolences. These 4 simple words revealed the difficulty of Wang Yu's journey. However, Wang Yu had no choice but to bite the bullet and embark on his journey. After dozens of minutes of bumpy travel, Wang Yu arrived at Heavenly Dragon City. Wang Yu was no stranger to Heavenly Dragon City. Back then, Wang Yu had slaughtered a dragon here and became the dragon's target of hatred. It was worth mentioning that the lair of Chuanjin's archenemy, Apocalypse, was also here. In the background story, Heavenly Dragon City was the dragon's neighbor. Since it was adjacent to Dragon Island, the dragons in heat loved to stroll around here. Therefore, the monsters here more or less had dragon characteristics, and the city style was also related to dragons. Of course, the players of Heavenly Dragon City knew more than anyone else how terrifying dragons were. After disembarking the airship, Wang Yu headed straight for the Castellan's mansion. Heavenly Dragon City's Castellan's mansion was the same as Yu Huiqing's. Both were guarded, and ordinary players were not allowed to enter or leave as they pleased. However, Wang Yu was an exception. Because Wang Yu had Yu Huiqing's status as the Castellan, he arrived at the city hall without any problems. At this time, a tall, middle-aged man walked out and cupped his hands at Wang Yu. Welcome, Lord Yu Huiqing. I apologize for not welcoming you earlier. In this Western fantasy story, the NPCs spoke in a Chinese style. It was a little out of place. However, when Wang Yu saw the middle-aged man's name, he immediately understood. Heavenly Dragon Slayer, Long Out Yin, Heavenly Dragon City Castellan. No wonder. If he was in any other story, he would be the main character. Well said. Wang Yu praised as he cupped his hands at Long Out Yin. With that, Wang Yu and Long Out Yin entered the meeting hall. After the two sat down, Long Out Yin said flatteringly, I've long heard that Yu Huicheng is a talented young man who led Yu Huicheng out of the protection of the Radiant Church. Seeing you today, you truly live up to your reputation. No, I was just lucky. Wang Yu waved his hand to express his modesty. Ha ha! Long Out Yin laughed heartily and said, Where there is a will, there is no such thing as luck. May I know what business Lord Yu Huicheng has here today? As expected of a city lord, his words were pleasing to hear. Moreover, he knew that Wang Yu wasn't here to talk nonsense with him. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he got to the point. Wang Yu said, Not really. I just want to borrow your teleportation portal. I don't know if it's convenient for you, Brother Dragon. TSK about that. Hearing Wang Yu's words, Long Out Yin frowned and said with some difficulty, Could it be that Lord Yu Huicheng wants to go to Dragon Island? That's right. I've reached a bottleneck in my training. I want to go to Dragon Island to get some pointers from Gao Long. Wang Yu didn't hide anything. Long Out Yin nodded and said, With Lord Yu Huicheng's reputation, you can go to Dragon Island. However, my teleportation portal requires a lot of energy, so I need some preparation. Preparation? Wang Yu thought for a while and asked, How long will it take? Long Out Yin said, At most half a year, at least a month. Hearing Long Out Yin said, Wang Yu couldn't help but laugh. At most half a year, at least a month. Time in the game waits for no one. Not to mention half a year, a month was enough to cripple a super expert. According to the system's usual style, this guy with the surname Long was most likely taking advantage of him. However, compared to Yu Huicheng's group of uncultured NPCs, he just looked better. Wang Yu then took out a money pouch and said with a smile, I came down in a hurry and didn't bring any gifts. This is just a small token of my respect. Please help me, Brother Long Ha. Long Out Yin laughed and took Wang Yu's money pouch. He weighed it in his hand and said, Lord Yu Huicheng, what are you saying? You don't have to be so polite with me. If you want to use it, the teleportation portal can be used in 3 days. 3 days? Wang Yu pursed his lips. He couldn't even wait a day, let alone 3 days. So, Wang Yu took out a bigger money pouch and handed it over, saying, Brother Long, I have something urgent. Long Out Yin weighed Wang Yu's money pouch in his hand and said with a satisfied smile, I wanted to use the teleportation portal to travel far away, so I just stored up some energy. Since Lord Yu Huicheng said so, I can only give this opportunity to you, brother. Thank you, Brother Long. Wang Yu quickly thanked him. At the same time, he secretly despised Long Out Yin. I've never heard of an intelligent NPC running around the world. Following Long Out Yin, Wang Yu arrived at the backyard of the Lord's residence. As expected, there was a huge teleportation portal in Long Out Yin's backyard. Lord Yu Huicheng, this is the teleportation portal. However, each person can only use it once a day. Are you sure you want to use it? Long Out Yin asked. Yes. Wang Yu nodded. He had already spent the money. Wouldn't it be a waste if he didn't use it? Saying so, Wang Yu cupped his hands at Long Out Yin and stepped into the teleportation portal. At the same time, a blue light surrounded Wang Yu. The scene changed, and Wang Yu appeared in another map. System notification. You have discovered Dragon Island. Obtained XXXXX So this is Dragon Island. Seeing the system notification, Wang Yu couldn't help but look around. Dragon Island was indeed the habitat of dragons. The scenery was vast and boundless. Moreover, all the scenery could be summed up in one word: big. Huge trees, huge rocks, and even wild grass were all huge. With Wang Yu's tall and sturdy body, only half of his head could be seen in the grass. In the sky above the endless plains, a few red dragons soared in the sky. In the grass, dragon whelps the size of cars were rolling on the ground. Just as Wang Yu was about to carefully avoid these dragons, he suddenly heard a thunderous voice beside his ear. Outsider, I am the Lord of Dragon Island, Dragon Emperor. Who are you? To actually carry the title of Dragon Slayer and come to Dragon Island to show off? Could it be that you think we dragons are easy to bully? Yeah. Hearing this, Wang Yu was stunned. He quickly looked around, but didn't see anyone. Wang Yu couldn't help but say in surprise, I am Yu Huicheng, City Lord Ironox. I am here to look for Dales. Although he didn't know where this Dragon Emperor was, this guy's tone was clearly not friendly. Thinking about it, Wang Yu carried the title of Dragon Slayer and came to Dragon Island to wander around. It was indeed somewhat arrogant. However, hearing Wang Yu's words, Dragon Emperor was stunned. His tone changed from hostility to surprise. Oh? You are City Lord Yu Huicheng? That's me. Wang Yu nodded. At that moment, Wang Yu suddenly realized that ever since Yu Huicheng left the protection of the Light faction, the title of City Lord Yu Huicheng seemed to carry a lot of weight in the eyes of the NPCs. Chapter 10:14. As the saying went, the more powerful one was, the less responsibility one had. What Wang Yu did not know was that the game was the same as reality. As long as one was strong enough, one would be able to gain the respect of others and be able to transcend the world. A main city that could lead its people away from the protection of the Light faction or the Dark faction was an existence that stood aloof from worldly affairs. Such a main city was like a dragon island. They had unparalleled strength and did not need to seek protection from others. In the end, in the eyes of the NPCs, Wang Yu was on the same level as the Dragon Emperor, even though Wang Yu was still an unawakened player. Since Lord Yu Huicheng has arrived, come over, the Dragon Emperor said. Go over? Go where? Wang Yu looked at the endless plains and was a little stunned. Who the hell knows where you are? Just as Wang Yu was in a daze, the space in front of Wang Yu suddenly cracked open. A huge golden claw reached out and dragged Wang Yu into the crack. Wang Yu felt his vision blur, and he was in a huge palace. The workmanship of this palace was very rough. It was as if it was made of stone. However, the walls were shining with golden light. They were all made of gold and gemstones. The extravagance of the materials made Wang Yu speechless. Just then, a thunderous voice sounded above Wang Yu. It really is Lord Yu Huicheng. Wang Yu looked up hurriedly. He saw a huge golden dragon standing in front of him. The golden dragon was nearly 100 meters tall. It had two huge wings on its back, and its tail was coiled under its butt. It was like a small mountain. The biggest boss that Wang Yu had ever seen was probably not even as big as one of the golden dragon's arms. The palace was originally glittering with gold, and this huge dragon was also glittering with gold as it squatted there. If it hadn't spoken, Wang Yu would have thought that it was a big piece of gold. Wang Yu instinctively cast a detection skill. Obviously, it was of no use. All the attributes of a dragon were question marks. The golden dragon seemed to have sensed Wang Yu's detection and said calmly, I'm the Dragon Emperor. Your Majesty, Dragon Emperor. Wang Yu cupped his hands at the Dragon Emperor politely. Dragons were a very arrogant race. The Dragon Emperor's style was much stronger than the average person's. Seeing that Wang Yu was being polite, the Dragon Emperor did not waste any time and said coldly, We, the dragons, do not associate with humans. The evil dragon that you killed only had some dragon's bloodline. It is not a real dragon. Since you are the Lord Yu Huicheng, we will not pursue this matter. However, you cannot stay here for long. After all, they were the most powerful race. They were extremely prideful. Moreover, their tone had a condescending tone. They had not even spoken 3 sentences, and they were already asking Lin Li to leave. Wang Yu was depressed. This Be-Asterisk star had captured him just to chase him away. Why did he have to do this? No. Wang Yu quickly waved his hand and said, I am not here for this matter. I am here to look for Dales. Dales? You're a martial arts expert? The Dragon Emperor heard Wang Yu's words and asked after looking at Wang Yu with his huge eyes. Wang Yu nodded and said, Yes, that's right. I have encountered some obstacles in my cultivation. I hope that Master Dales can guide me a little. The Dragon Emperor sneered and said, No wonder you were able to lead your people out of the protection of the gods and demons. It turns out that you have obtained the inheritance of that terrifying guy. Yeah, A question mark appeared on Wang Yu's head. The so-called terrifying guy in the Dragon Emperor's words should be martial god. Unexpectedly, this guy who had been living in lines had the strength to make the Dragon Emperor afraid. Could it be that Master Martial God is proficient in the legendary 18 Dragon Palms? Immediately after, the Dragon Emperor said, "Since you are a martial arts expert, I have to give you face." However, Dales is not here. What? Not here? When Wang Yu heard this, he suddenly wanted to curse. Meow. I have spent my money, and I have been despised by this cheap dragon. In the end, he said this. Isn't this a scam? The Dragon Emperor said, Dales is a good friend of martial god when he traveled the continent. He is also a dragon's warrior who seeks the supreme martial arts. Naturally, he would not let a paradise like Dragon Island stay put. Damn. Wang Yu was depressed to be tossed and turned by a group of NPCs like he was a grandchild. If that's the case, then I will take my leave. After saying that, Wang Yu took out his weapon and was about to commit suicide and return to the city. Dragon Island did not have a teleportation circle. However, at the moment when he was about to stab himself with a knife, Wang Yu seemed to have thought of something and suddenly asked, Then, Your Majesty Dragon Emperor, do you know the whereabouts of Master Dales? I am the omnipotent Dragon Emperor. Of course I know. The Dragon Emperor nodded shamelessly. Damn, I knew it. When Wang Yu heard this, he put away the knife angrily. This F***king system is really always scamming me. If I die and go back, one day will be wasted. Then, can I ask Your Majesty Dragon Emperor to tell me the whereabouts of Master Dales? Wang Yu took out a money pouch and asked respectfully. If it was a human NPC, Wang Yu might have handed over the money pouch. However, no matter how Emperor the Dragon Emperor was, he was still a beast. Wang Yu had a glimmer of hope for his character. However, the system would never give players hope. This cheap dragon was far greedier than Wang Yu had imagined. When he heard Wang Yu's question, the Dragon Emperor said, I can tell you, but with your strength, you will not be able to go to that place. I can't go. Wang Yu was stunned for a moment. He raised the money pouch in his hand and said, Please tell me, Your Majesty Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor glanced at the money pouch in Wang Yu's hand and sneered, Young man, I have never seen a gift of 100 gold coins. F***ck. When Wang Yu heard this, he could not help but be shocked. 100 gold coins was equivalent to a few $1,000s. It was just asking this guy for some information. In reality, asking for directions was only $10. 10 boxes of jewelry. I will send you there. The Dragon Emperor continued. Damn. When he heard the Dragon Emperor's condition, Wang Yu's body swayed, and he almost fell to the ground. What kind of greedy request is this? The Dragon Emperor is greedy. 10 boxes of jewelry. This beast really dares to ask for it. Does he want to eat it? When he thought of this, Wang Yu said unhappily, I don't have it. Meow. Let alone 10 boxes. I don't even have 1 box. No way. This shameless old dragon. Chapter 10:15. System notification. You have triggered the hidden quest 10 chests of jewelry. Do you accept? F***ck. Seeing the system notification, Wang Yu was in a daze. What kind of worldview is this? If you don't have it, then rob it. This is the logic of a bandit. What's even more shameless is that you don't want to rob it yourself, but you're urging someone else to do it. You really want to be the kind of person, but also want to establish a chastity. Wang Yu replied decisively, That's not good. I'm the Lord of City. How can I do this kind of shady business? You're the Lord of Dragon Island. You can't bully the weak, but I'm the Lord of a city. Of course, I have to consider my identity. Seeing that Wang Yu wasn't willing to go, the Dragon Emperor said with a smile, Lord Yu Huicheng is really noble. However, only Ben Huang knows about Dales' whereabouts. Ben Huang hopes that you can reconsider. Wang Yu pondered over the Dragon Emperor's words, then frowned and asked, You mean that if I don't accept this quest, I won't be able to complete it? Heh, Lord Yu Huicheng's comprehension is indeed extraordinary. The Dragon Emperor laughed shamelessly. Extraordinary, my ass. Anyone who isn't stupid can see it. Wang Yu shook his head, breaking down. How about it? Have you thought it through? The Dragon Emperor asked. Wang Yu said righteously, "Nonsense. Of course I'll accept it." After hanging out with Xuanzhen for so long, Wang Yu had been successfully instilled with Xuanzhen's way of thinking. Playing games was just for fun. Everyone had no psychological burden when it came to killing and arson. Wouldn't it be crazy to use moral standards to restrict oneself when it came to robbing? Similarly, doing quests. That was all arranged by the system. Robbing was at best a two-way quest. He couldn't just give up because of so-called logic. Wang Yu wasn't that stubborn. Then, Wang Yu accepted the quest. System notification. You have accepted the hidden quest, 10 chests of jewelry. Mission details. According to rumors, a batch of jewels will be delivered to Heavenly Dragon City. Before the jewels arrive, borrow 10 boxes. Jewelry obtained 0 out of 10. Quest hint. Not allowed to team up mission reward. Dragon Emperor's favor. TSK, TSK. Seeing the mission content, Wang Yu sighed and shook his head. As expected of someone who wanted to have a good reputation. Even when he gave out a mission, there was not a single drop of water left out. It was clearly a robbery, but it turned out to be borrowing. What do you think? Are you ready? I'll send you there now. The Dragon Emperor asked. Wang Yu thought about it and asked, how do I come back? If you want to go back to Dragon Island, he had to go to Long Outyin to borrow the teleportation circle. However, Long Outyin was also a person who wouldn't do anything unless he saw a rabbit. He couldn't do anything without money. Moreover, Heavenly Dragon City's teleportation circle could only be used tomorrow. Wang Yu didn't want to spend money a second time. Of course, if he had a teleportation scroll, he could actually book a flight point on Dragon Island. However, the price of a teleportation scroll was much more expensive than Long Outyin's teleportation circle. It wasn't like Wang Yu had too much money to spend. That's easy. Take this. The Dragon Emperor chuckled. Then, a golden token appeared in Wang Yu's hand. Dragon Emperor's token, precious item. After using the Dragon Emperor's token, the user could be directly teleported to the Dragon Emperor's side in any scenario. Although this thing was labeled as a precious item, it was actually just a directional teleportation stone. No one would want to come to such a dangerous place like Dragon Island if there wasn't anything important. However, with this item, it saved Wang Yu the teleportation fee. Yeah, that's more like it. After taking a look at the attributes of the Dragon Emperor's token, Wang Yu casually threw it into his bag. Seeing that Wang Yu was ready, the Dragon Emperor grinned and revealed a happy expression. Then he extended his 2 huge claws and tore the space in front of Wang Yu. Then, with a flick of his fingers, he sent Wang Yu in. After all, he was a powerful existence on the same level as the divine light god. The ability to tear space apart was definitely a peak that players would never be able to reach in their lifetime. After being sent into the spatial rift, the scene in front of Wang Yu changed into another forest scene. Wang Yu took a look at the name of the map, Draconic Forest. Then, Wang Yu raised his head and saw a path through the forest, leading straight to Heavenly Dragon City in the distance. At this moment, a bustling sound came from the other side of the path. Then, a group of players came over with a huge carriage. On the carriage, there was a load of boxes. It was obvious that this carriage contained the jewels that Wang Yu needed. As expected of a super NPC, even a fixed teleportation time was calculated. In the blink of an eye, the carriage had already turned around the corner, and there was a large group of players following behind the carriage. There were about 30 to 40 of these players, and they were all well equipped for their professions. All of them were fully equipped with top-grade equipment and had their equipment's special effects activated. Their bodies emitted a flashy glow. When Wang Yu saw the badges on everyone's chests, he couldn't help but smile. This badge wasn't unfamiliar to Wang Yu at all. It was the team from the Apocalypse. No matter what, Wang Yu was still a virtuous martial artist. Originally, he was still a little embarrassed and was thinking of a way to scam them. At this moment, when he saw that it was the players from the Apocalypse, the little bit of guilt that remained in Wang Yu's heart immediately flew beyond the clouds. Seeing that the team was about to reach him, Wang Yu directly jumped out and stood in the middle of the road. He stretched out both his hands and blocked the path of the crowd. The Apocalypse players were originally walking smoothly, But when they saw a burly man suddenly jump out of the forest, they couldn't help but be shocked and hurriedly said, "Not good. There's an ambush. Everyone, prepare for battle." With one look, it was obvious that these players were doing an escort mission. Along the way, they had probably encountered many bandits and robbers. Their familiarity in dealing with enemies was quite high. Once they heard that there was an ambush, dozens of people quickly formed a formation and protected the carriage in the middle of the formation. Ambush! Hearing the shouts of the Apocalypse players, Wang Yu looked back and wondered, "Where's the ambush?" Yeah. At this time, everyone realized that there was only one enemy in front of them, and only then did they let out a long sigh of relief. One of the bald-headed players said, "You King want to die. What are you standing here for? You scared us." "I want to borrow something," Wang Yu replied. "No money, get lost." The bald-headed player was extremely impatient. Anyone who was scared would not be in a good mood, and this bald-headed player couldn't be blamed. "I'm not borrowing money." "Then what do you want to borrow?" The bald-headed player heard this and suddenly put his sword in front of his chest and asked vigilantly. Wang Yu said lightly, 10 boxes of jewelry. F***CK. Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of saliva and scolded. "Who the F***CK are you? Are you still dreaming? You even dare to rob our Doomsday's escort mission." As an old rival of Chuanjin in the Apocalypse, his arrogance and despotism were very similar to Chuanjin's. He had always been notorious, and in Skydragon City, he was a tyrant. These guys had never seen anyone who dared to rob them alone. Wang Yu heard this and smiled. "I'm Iron Ox. Quickly give me the jewelry." Chapter 10:16. Iron Ox? Robbing? Ha! Hearing Wang Yu's words, the players couldn't help but laugh. There were more than a dozen groups of robbers along the way. Which one of them wasn't in an ambush? When they heard that it was the end of the world, they all obediently gave way. They didn't expect that there would only be one person in the last group. Regardless of whether this person's identity was real or not, even if he was Iron Ox, there was no need to be afraid of one person when there were 30 to 40 of them in Skydragon City. However, when the Baldy heard Wang Yu's words, he was stunned at first. He then looked at Wang Yu. When he saw Wang Yu's appearance, he suddenly trembled. He pointed at Wang Yu and said in horror, It's really Iron Ox." The others said disapprovingly, "If it is, then so be it. Light brother, do you have to be like this?" The Baldy said anxiously, "Nonsense. That is Iron Ox. Everyone give him the things." Then, the Baldy walked over with the carriage and handed the reins to Wang Yu. F***CK. Seeing this, everyone rushed up and pressed the Baldy to the ground. They patted the Baldy's big head and said, "Light brother, are you crazy? Crazy your sister. Let me go." The Baldy shouted as he struggled. Looking at the group of people in front of him, Wang Yu was a little speechless. Although Wang Yu wasn't familiar with this Baldy, his appearance wasn't unfamiliar. He also knew that this guy had been killed by him before, so Wang Yu wasn't surprised by this guy's behavior. He paused and said that, "I don't want much, just 10 boxes. T. Not a single box." Confucius said, "Life and death are indifferent. If you're not satisfied, then fight." Everyone was also a person with a temper. Seeing that Wang Yu was still making sarcastic remarks, they naturally wouldn't be too polite. "If you don't give it to me, don't blame me for being rude." As he said this, Wang Yu took a few steps forward. F***CK. Kill him. The players of the post-apocalyptic era were used to being arrogant. When they saw that Wang Yu was alone and had such an arrogant attitude, they were immediately enraged. A shield warrior beside Baldy raised a shield and charged toward Wang Yu. Wang Yu dodged to the side, dodging the shield warrior's heavy soldier. Extending his hand, he used Ferocious Tiger Strike to grab the shield warrior's neck and drag him to his front. At the same time, he tripped the shield warrior. Ferocious Tiger Strike was a grab skill. When Wang Yu pulled and tripped, the shield warrior lost his balance. Immediately after, Wang Yu grabbed the shield warrior's neck and slammed him down. The shield warrior cried out in pain and collapsed to the ground. Before anyone could react, Wang Yu stomped on the shield warrior's head. Boom! Lightning flashed, and the shield warrior was trampled into a ball of white light. Wang Yu's burly body gave off an oppressive aura. Stepping on someone's head with his foot made the visual effect even more ferocious. F***CK. Seeing this scene, the players of the post-apocalyptic era felt their hair stand on end. They could vaguely feel the back of their heads go numb. Everyone's understanding of Wang Yu was limited to the forums and rumors. In fact, they weren't very familiar with him. However, they were all players of the same guild, so they definitely knew the Shield Warrior's background. The Shield Warrior was a class with thick skin and thick flesh, coupled with a full body of heavy armor. Even a boss wouldn't be able to kill him in one shot. However, this Grandmaster combat had just casually stomped a fully armored Shield Warrior to death. This attack power, this judgment was simply unheard of. Looking at the panic-stricken Light Brother, everyone's hearts sank. They raised their hands, or rather above their heads. In the game, death wasn't scary. What was scary was having no hope. If even a Shield Warrior could be killed in one shot, what else couldn't he kill? Even if there were dozens of people standing together, no one felt safe at all. You don't come over. Let's talk this out. Seeing that Wang Yu was getting closer, everyone was at a loss. Wang Yu was an honest person. Since everyone was like this during the post-apocalyptic era, Wang Yu naturally wouldn't kill them all. Thus, he calmly said, "I only want the jewels. Give me the jewels, and I promise I won't do anything." Here. Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone left the carriage in a panic and turned to run. In just a short while, dozens of people disappeared without a trace. Hey, these guys. Seeing the sorry state of the people in the post-apocalyptic era, Wang Yu couldn't help but smile and walk to the front of the carriage. Originally, Wang Yu said that he would only carry 10 boxes of jewels, but this carriage only carried 15 boxes. Seeing that more than half of the jewels had been carried by him, Wang Yu looked around. Seeing that all the people in the post-apocalyptic era had left, it was a waste to leave the jewels here, so he simply put them all into his bag. Because it was an escort mission, after all the goods were carried away, the carriage automatically disappeared. Wang Yu took out the Dragon Emperor's order and clicked to use it. At that time, the space around Wang Yu distorted, and then the space was torn apart. A golden dragon claw dragged Wang Yu in. When the post-apocalyptic era assassins in the distance saw this, their jaws dropped. Damn, that Iron Ox actually knows spatial magic. At this time, Wang Yu had already been dragged into his own lair by the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor looked at Wang Yu greedily and asked impatiently, "How is it, Lord Yu Huicheng? Did you borrow what I wanted?" "I borrowed it." Wang Yu emphasized the word borrowed, and then took out all the jewels from his bag one by one. Looking at the pile of jewels and treasure chests on the ground, the Dragon Emperor was pleasantly surprised and said, "As expected of a hero among humans, Ben Wang admires your courage." Oomph. The Dragon Emperor's table manners were not much better than other intelligent NPCs. Wang Yu snorted coldly and said disdainfully, "I've also borrowed the jewels for you." "What you promised me." The Dragon Emperor waved his claws and said, "Well said, well said." Ben Huang is not someone who goes back on his word. As soon as the Dragon Emperor's voice fell, Wang Yu received another system notification. You have completed the mission, 10 jewels, and obtained XXX experience points. You have obtained Dragon Emperor's favorability points, XXX points. Dragons' honor points have increased by XX points. You have obtained the title Dragon Warrior, title Divine Dragon Bloodline, active skill. Consumes a large amount of internal energy to activate the bloodline of dragons. All attributes increase by 200% for 50 seconds. Damage to dragons is doubled. Cooldown time, 240 minutes. Sure enough, any equipment or item with the word dragon, and it was destined to be much stronger than ordinary items. A player's equipment could increase all attributes by 30%. Even divine equipment could not exceed this range. However, the Dragon Warrior title could increase a person's attributes by 200% for a short period of time. It could be seen that the attributes of this title were abnormal. Chapter 1017. Just as Wang Yu was sighing at the perverted reward given by the Dragon Emperor, he suddenly realized something and said, "Ugh, that's not right. I don't want this. I want to find Dales." Hee. Unexpectedly, the Dragon Emperor laughed and said, "Isn't he right in front of you? You're Dales?" Hearing the Dragon Emperor's words, Wang Yu couldn't help but be shocked. What else? Dragons are not like you humans. We dragons have always respected the strong. Do you think that giant dragon has more power than me? Hearing this, Wang Yu was speechless. Indeed, a powerful race like the dragons had to use the bloodline of the strongest to continue the next generation. If Dales was really stronger than the Dragon Emperor, then the dragons wouldn't recognize him. But, thinking of this, Wang Yu pointed at the Dragon Emperor and said, "Didn't you say that Dales isn't on Dragon Island?" Wang Yu knew that artificial intelligence couldn't lie. Otherwise, it would violate the world ban and have to redo the game. Just now, the Golden Dragon Emperor clearly said that Dales wasn't on Dragon Island. Now, he appeared in the Dragon Emperor's lair. Wasn't this clearly lying? Yes, not on Dragon Island. This is Bunhuang's Dragon Emperor Palace. Did someone tell you that the Dragon Emperor Palace must be on Dragon Island? The Dragon Emperor asked with a smile. Damn it, Wang Yu was speechless. You can't judge the thinking of the system's designer with common sense. Who knows when it will trip you up? At this time, the Dragon Emperor, which we will call him Dales, began to shrink rapidly. From the height of a 10-story building, he shrank to the size of Wang Yu. Finally, he turned into a brawny man with a title above his head, Dragon Martial God Dales. After Dales transformed into a human, he was about 2 meters tall and was clad in shining golden armor. His face was angular and full of determination. His eyes were like torches, and his every movement carried a might that looked down on the world. Wang had only ever seen such an aura from Arceus. Apart from this, what attracted Wang Yu's attention the most was the gauntlets on Dale's arms. The golden gauntlets were connected to the armor, and there were sharp blades that could be retracted at the joints. There were also 2 huge dragon heads on the fists. As long as he clenched his fists, the dragon heads would protect his fists. It looked both offensive and defensive, and it was very lethal. Men, especially those who practice martial arts, loved weapons more than ordinary people. Wang Yu's eyes were immediately attracted to Dale's golden dragon gauntlets. As if noticing Wang Yu's gaze, Dale smiled and hid the gauntlets on his body. He said with a smile, "Ha, little friend, your greeting gift is not bad. This old dragon will accept it. As long as you like it, your majesty, Dragon Emperor." Wang Yu nodded speechlessly. "Meow, you forced me to snatch this for you, okay?" Hearing Wang Yu's words, Dale said, "Since you are the successor of that old brat, martial god, and I like you, you don't have to be so polite. Just call me Uncle Master." Uncle Master? Wang Yu was a little dizzy. Why did the word Uncle Master sound so strange in Western fantasy games? What, according to you guys, isn't that Uncle Master? Do you think I don't deserve it? Dale shouted with a big grin. What are you talking about? Greetings, Uncle Master, Wang Yu hurriedly said. What a joke. This was the Dragon Emperor, one of the 3 big bosses of the neutral camp. He was a fierce character who could compete with the light god. It was not wrong to call him Uncle Master. Good boy. The divine Dragon Emperor laughed and casually threw out a necklace. According to the rules of your world, you've given me such a valuable gift on our first meeting. As your Uncle Master, I have to reciprocate. Take this little thing and play with it. Wang Yu took it and looked at it. Wow, her eyeballs almost popped out. Dragon Emperor's protection, necklace, gold, attack, 40-60 mana. 40-60 plus 33 strength plus 22 agility plus 30 constitution dragon scale. Passive skill. The legendary dragon scale. Touching it will cause anger. When HP is less than 30%, the effect of the scale will be triggered. Attacks will have a 100% critical rate. Dragon's blood baptism. Passive skill. Warriors who have been baptized by the dragon's blood will have the ability to revive. When HP reaches 0, the baptism effect will be triggered. HP will be restored to 100%. Cooldown, 240 minutes. Draconic language, Active skill. Draconic magic is the most mysterious magic in the world. It is the most powerful force. After using draconic language, one draconic magic will be released. Costs 30% MP cooldown, 200 to 40 minutes. Item Introduction. Dragon Emperor's Collection. Level requirement. 40 class requirement. General. What is generous? What is generous? Just look at the Dragon Emperor. Necklaces and rings have always been the most difficult to drop from regular equipment. Silver-grade accessories can be sold for the price of gold-grade equipment, but the Dragon Emperor gave a gold-grade necklace with a wave of his hand. Of course, an expert like Wang Yu would not lack gold-grade equipment. However, the attributes of this necklace were so strong that even Wang Yu could not help but be amazed. Not to mention the power of the draconic magic and the rogue ability to revive with full HP. Just the first attribute alone was something that all melee professions could only dream of. After all, when melee classes stabbed each other, what they pursued the most was the critical hit effect. Just think about it. With the same attributes and attack power, you hit me for 2,000 HP, and I returned 5,000 HP with one stab. How enjoyable would that be? Giving such an overpowered equipment for free, Dale seemed to be a little dissatisfied. He waved his hand and said to Wang Yu, the system has a rule that equipment above gold grade cannot be given away for free. Take this and play with it first. Don't think that I'm poor. Look at him. Although he had the face of a nouveau riche, the way he spoke and did things made people feel comfortable. If other AI NPCs were compared to him, they would probably blush. The NPCs in the system were all fellows who would not get up early if there was no profit. Wang Yu was also not a greedy person. He took a piece of exquisite equipment for no reason and was muttering in his heart. When he heard Dale's words, he quickly said, "I'm already very satisfied with this necklace." Haha, such a person who is easily satisfied. Dale's laughed, then went straight to the point. "Nephew, you came at the right time." "What do you mean?" Hearing this, Wang Yu's head was filled with question marks. "That," Dale's quickly said, "I heard that you have won 100 battles in a row." "Yes," Wang Yu replied. Dale said, "The battles in the arena are only to let you familiarize yourself with the fighting styles of various professions. But a real battle is definitely not a game. If you want to awaken the seed of martial arts in your body, you actually only need 2 words." "What 2 words?" Wang Yu heard this and asked doubtfully. Chapter 10:18. Battle? What do you mean? When Wang Yu heard this, he suddenly felt that Dale's might be up to no good. As the saying goes, if one is unaccountably humble, one must be hiding evil intentions. Wang Yu knew very well what NPCs in the game are like. The more intelligent they were, the more they liked to trick people. How could a super NPC like Dale's be so kind as to give equipment and titles as soon as they met? After all, there was no free lunch in this world. As expected, when he heard Wang Yu's words, Dale's chuckled and said, "You know Sky Dragon City's Castellan Long Outyin, right?" "Yes, I do." Wang Yu nodded. "That wasn't a good person either. This guy is a traitor to the dragons. Use what you've learned to kill him." System notification. You have activated the Awakening Quest Brave's Trial, the 3rd part, Dragon Slaying Heavenly General. Quest rank S. Do you accept? What? When Wang Yu saw the system notification, he was shocked. Long Outyin wasn't someone easy to deal with. Not to mention the many guards in the Castellan's mansion, Long Outyin was in existence on the same level as Castellan Willie. Because Long Outyin had the bloodline of the dragons, he was naturally stronger than humans. Although they were both level 80, Long Outyin's strength was definitely not weaker than a level 100 boss that had surpassed the peak of the profession. When Wang Yu fought Willie, his strength was completely suppressed. If he hadn't accidentally discovered Willie's weakness, he wouldn't have been able to turn the tables. Now that he was facing an existence like Long Outyin, it wasn't very realistic. "Martial Uncle, can we change the quest?" Wang Yu asked after some thought. Addressing him as Martial Uncle meant that he was at least half one of them. Wang Yu did not believe that Dale would be so heartless. Dale's hesitated for a moment and said, "Marshal nephew, I see that you're one of us, so I've already gone easy on you. If you really want to change the mission, it's not impossible. I'm just afraid that you can't do it." As Dale spoke, his knuckles cracked. Seeing Dale's posture, Wang Yu's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, "Meow, could it be that I have to fight with this guy in another mission?" With how despicable and shameless the system was, it was not impossible for it to do such a thing. Think about it. No matter how powerful Long Out Yin was, he at least had a chance of winning. But what kind of strength did Dale's have? He was a god-tier boss that could tear space apart with his bare hands. Wouldn't tearing people apart be a piece of cake? Although Wang Yu was strong, he was not an arrogant person. If he had to choose between the two, Wang Yu would naturally not challenge an existence like Dale's. After weighing the pros and cons, Wang Yu could only say, "All right, I'll go look for Long Out Yin. Not bad, not bad." Dale's nodded in satisfaction and said, as expected of the successor of Martial God, "I'll wait for your good news." Saying that, Dale's tore space apart again and threw Wang Yu in. At the same time, at the World Apocalypse headquarters, Dugu Jiuqiang was furious at Light Brother and the others. "F***CK, you bunch of idiots trash. Losing the jewels doesn't matter, but our reputation in the main city dropped by over 100. Do you know how long it would take to raise 100 reputation?" Light Brother felt wronged and said, "Didn't we meet that be **TCH Iron Ox? F***CK. Dugu Jiuqiang heard this and gritted his teeth. Iron Ox, Iron Ox. That damn Chuanjian dog. You guys have 40 to 50 people. Why don't you dare to fight him?" Light Brother said, "It's true that we have a lot of people, but what Iron Ox said makes sense. What did he say?" Dugu Jiuqiang heard Light Brother's words and couldn't help but ask. "He said as long as we hand over the jewels, he won't kill us. F***CK? 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 You be asterisk cheese." Dugu Jiuqiang was furious. But anger was anger. It wasn't like Dugu Jiuqiang didn't know Wang Yu's ability. After the anger subsided, Dugu Jiuqiang said gloomily, "The city lord is very angry at us for losing the jewels, but he gave us a salvage mission." "What mission?" Light Brother and the others heard and asked curiously. Dugu Jiuqiang shared the mission and said, "Guard the city lord's mansion." Everyone looked at the content carefully and said, "Mend the lawn, clean the courtyard. What bullshit guarding the city lord's mansion? Isn't this just asking us to do odd jobs?" Dugu Jiuqiang said angrily, "Nonsense. Didn't we fail the job of transporting the jewels? F***CK. I hope that B***TCH doesn't come and cause trouble this time." Hearing Dugu Jiuqiang's words, everyone hurriedly said, "Boss, don't be a B***TCH. What if you say it F***CK? Seeing that his subordinates were so nervous, Dugu Jiuqiang immediately broke down. Of course, Wang Yu wasn't in a good mood. If he was in Yu Huicheng, Chuanjian, and the others were all strong, at least he would have a helper. However, he was unfamiliar with Tianlong City and didn't have any friends. How could it be easy for him to kill the city lord alone? It was like someone giving you a fruit knife and ordering you to kill the president of country A. It was unrealistic. Helpless, Wang Yu sent a request for help in the guild channel. "Is anyone there? Please help." To be honest, Wang Yu really didn't want to trouble this group of B***cheese. Although Chuanjian and the others were good to their own people, they would definitely take this opportunity to ridicule them. These B***cheese were the kind of people who didn't want you to thank them for their hard work. As expected, as soon as Wang Yu sent the message, Chuanjian's channel exploded. F***CK. Old cow. You didn't do the awakening quest? I'm doing it. It'll be troublesome if I encounter a problem, Wang Yu said dejectedly. F***CK it can't be. What kind of quest can make our bull god helpless? Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone exclaimed in surprise. Everyone was now level 50 and was doing the awakening quest. However, everyone followed the prescribed order and could basically solve the quest by themselves. Naturally, no one doubted Wang Yu's strength. Only God knew what kind of hornet's nest Wang Yu had poked this time. Even he had to ask for help. Wang Yu said, "Kill the Lord of Sky Dragon City, Long Out Yin, F*CK." As soon as Wang Yu said this, everyone was stunned. F*CK. Can the system be more shameless? Everyone sighed. "I dare," Wang Yu said miserably. "If I don't kill Long Out Yin, I'll have to fight the Dragon Emperor alone." F*CK. This time, everyone was completely stunned. F*CK, as expected of the #1 expert in the world. Even accepting a quest can make people break out in cold sweat. "Who's going to help?" Wang Yu wailed. Chapter 1019. Indeed, although Chuanjin's group was an expert, the gap between them and Wang Yu was not small. Compared to Long Out Yin, they were a far cry. If Wang Yu and Long Out Yin fought, it would be like a fight between two tigers. Not only would ordinary people not be able to help, they might even cause trouble. Therefore, even if Wu Ji and the others went, they would not be of much help. Moreover, the city lord's mansion was heavily guarded. Chuanjin's group did not even have as many guards. If they wanted to lure all the guards away and create a quiet fighting environment for Wang Yu, what would be the point of going? Then what should we do? Wang Yu was depressed. There was no other way. This quest was not for ordinary people. Wang Yu could understand that Chuanjin's people were helpless. Wu Ji hesitated and said, "If you give me enough people, I can give it a try." Ask Blood Alliance for help? Wang Yu immediately thought of Blood Red War Flag. No. Wu Ji shook his head and said, "Blood Red War Flags, people going to Sky Dragon City to assassinate the city lord? Isn't that courting death?" Wang Yu was speechless. Players in the game were still very territorial. If a guild with too many people passed by a main city, it would be misunderstood. Not to mention openly attacking the city lord's mansion. It was probably because they had never died before that they dared to do so. "I think you should find someone else. To move unhindered." Wu Ji thought and said, "To move unhindered, there were guilds stationed in every main city." No. Wang Yu hurriedly shook his head and said, attacking the city lord's mansion was not a fight with a guild. If they lost, they would have to pay for it. It would be fine if he could kill Long Out Yin, but if he couldn't, Wang Yu could just leave. At most, he wouldn't be able to complete the mission. To move unhindered would mean losing a major city's mineral vein. Although evildoers run, Wild wouldn't care about such a small loss. Wang Yu, as an elder brother, always let his younger brother stand up for him. Wang Yu's pride couldn't accept it. Wu Ji said helplessly, "You want someone to help you, but you don't want to lose anything unless you find a guild you don't like." "A guild you don't like?" Wang Yu was shocked when he heard this, and his eyes immediately lit up. He said, "Hey, I know who to look for." After saying that, Wang Yu closed the chat channel and went straight to Sky Dragon City. Dugu Jiuqiang was arranging for his subordinates to guard the city lord's mansion against fire, theft, and iron ox when he suddenly received a message. When Dugu Jiuqiang opened the message window and saw the sender, he couldn't help but be shocked. He then muttered to himself, "Iron ox, why did this guy suddenly send me a message?" While mumbling, Dugu Jiuqiang opened the message. In a message, Wang Yu said, "Guild leader Dugu, how have you been?" As the saying went, a night owl wouldn't come without a reason. When he saw Wang Yu's message, Dugu Jiuqiang immediately closed the chat channel. According to his years of experience as a boss, if he couldn't fight, he could hide. Pretending to be absent was the best way to deal with it. But at this moment, Wang Yu sent another message. "I'm in Sky Dragon City now. I plan to visit you to discuss something important. Guild leader Dugu, you won't have time, right?" F*CK. When he saw Wang Yu's second message, Dugu Jiuqiang knew that he couldn't hide even if he wanted to. After fighting with Chuanjin for so many years, Dugu Jiuqiang naturally knew what Chuanjin's style was like. With Dugu Jiuqiang's understanding of Chuanjin, if he dared to say that he didn't have time, Chuanjin would probably block the entrance of Sky Dragon City and kill all the players until Dugu Jiuqiang came out. Chuanjin had done this many times in the past. Of course, Wang Yu was a good kid who didn't get stained by the mud. Dugu Jiuqiang's behavior was called gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Thinking about this, Dugu Juqiang replied helplessly. Nyogo, what is there to discuss? Wang Yu pretended to be mysterious and said, of course it's something important. I'll wait for you at Sky Dragon Bar for half an hour. Okay, I'll be there now. Dugu Jiuqiang hurriedly replied. This was a F*King ultimatum. If he didn't wait for half an hour, he would start a massacre. After closing the message, Dugu Jiuqiang sighed and said, brothers, come with me to Sky Dragon Bar. What's wrong? Now you're thinking of drinking? Everyone asked one after another. Dugu Jiuqiang said gloomily, Bullsh***, we're going to meet a dangerous person. F***, are you for real? Let me go. When everyone heard Dugu Jiuqiang's words, they immediately volunteered. Dugu Jiuqiang said, there's no use in numbers. Let's have a few who can run fast. Why? Dugu Jiuqiang sighed. No matter how many people there are, they're just going to die. Those who can run fast can lure him away. Everyone was speechless. The more people who knew Wang Yu, the more they knew that Wang Yu was strong. Therefore, in Dugu Jiuqiang, Wang Yu's deterrence was still very strong. In less than 10 minutes, Dugu Jiuqiang brought a few archers to Sky Dragon Bar. As soon as they entered, Dugu Jiuqiang saw Wang Yu sitting there drinking. The players in Sky Dragon City seemed to be very afraid of people from the apocalypse. When they saw Dugu Jiuqiang bringing people into the bar and looking around as if he was looking for trouble, everyone quickly put down their glasses and walked out. This was not strange for Wang Yu. In the past, when he was in Yuhuicheng, Yuhuicheng's players saw Chuanjin's people like this, as expected of an old rival. Their temperaments were very similar. Although they wouldn't kill innocent people, the probability of them causing trouble was higher, and everyone was afraid of getting involved. Nyogo. Seeing Wang Yu, Dugu Jiuqiang immediately pretended to be very enthusiastic and greeted him. Why did you come? Why didn't you tell us in advance? Wang Yu was puzzled. Didn't I just rob your jewelry? Didn't your baldy tell you? F***. Dugu Jiuqiang heard this and burst into tears. This guy really didn't know how to chat. Ha! Dugu Jiuqiang laughed awkwardly and then changed the topic. You're not in Yuhui. Why did you come to Sky Dragon City? Hey! Wang Yu smiled and said, brother, do you want to be the city lord? Hearing Wang Yu's words, Dugu Jiuqiang was stunned and then asked in disbelief, what did you say? Do you want to be the city lord? Wang Yu repeated with a smile. After confirming that Wang Yu's words were correct, Dugu Jiuqiang was completely dumbfounded. What a good opening. If someone else dared to say this, Dugu Jiuqiang would definitely stab them with a knife. F***, everyone is so busy. Who are you fooling around with? But to Wang Yu, Dugu Jiuqiang didn't dare. It wasn't just because of Wang Yu's strength, but because Wang Yu was the only city lord in the entire game who was a player. If someone else said this, they would probably be bragging, but when it came from Wang Yu's mouth, it was worth considering. Chapter 10:20. Of course, Wang Yu smiled confidently. When Wang Yu smiled, Dugu Jiuqiang's hair stood on end again. He asked with lingering fear, you're not trying to trick me, are you? It couldn't be helped. Dugu Jiuqiang had been dealing with Chuanjin for so many years. No one knew Chuanjin's methods better than Dugu Jiuqiang. Sneak attacks, and eat from one's mouth. These were all Chuanjin's specialties. As the saying went, a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. Dugu Jiuqiang had suffered losses so many times. If he didn't learn his lesson, he would be an idiot. Seeing that Dugu Jiuqiang was so wary of him, Wang Yu smiled and said, if I wanted to take care of you, would I need to trick you? Hearing Wang Yu's words, Dugu Jiuqiang was stunned. If someone else said such words, Dugu Jiuqiang would definitely stab them without hesitation. However, when it came from Wang Yu's mouth, Dugu Jiuqiang had no choice but to accept it. Dugu Jiuqiang said with tears streaming down his face, what you said makes sense, but how do I become a city lord? I can't just do a few quests, right? As the highest authority in a city lord basically had the authority to rule over the city. This authority was the highest authority that players could freely use in the game. Putting aside everything else, Dugu Jiuqiang knew about the authority to manage a city. Back then, he had put in a lot of effort to complete this quest. Now his goal was the authority to manage a city. How could it be said casually, setting aside the difficulty of the quest? Just the number of quests was enough to kill a player. Wang Yu chuckled and said, "Actually, it's very simple. You just need to rule over the city and take its seal." Thud! As soon as Wang Yu finished speaking, Dugu Jiuqiang fell to the ground. After a long while, Dugu Jiuqiang finally came back to his senses. He took a deep breath and said, "Neo deity, are you joking? This is a F*king plot to usurp the throne. This is called being able to rule." Wang Yu took out a large seal and waved it in front of Dugu Jiuqiang's eyes. "Do you see this? This is Yu Huiqing's Castellan seal. I obtained this after defeating the Castellan." "You stole it?" When Dugu Jiuqiang heard this, he looked at Wang Yu in fear. Indeed, this was the style of Chuanjin. With the abilities of these people, it was not impossible for them to do such a thing. However, Dugu Jiuqiang was not an idiot. He naturally did not completely believe Wang Yu's words. Instead, he said to Wang Yu, "But our Castellan said that after he retires, the Castellan will find a suitable candidate." Huh! Hearing Dugu Jiuqiang's words, Wang Yu could not help but laugh. "Boss Dugu, you've played this game for so long. Do you really believe the nonsense of an NPC? Is there something wrong?" Dugu Jiuqiang asked. "What do you think?" Wang Yu sneered. "Our Yu Huiqing's Castellan is a human. According to the background story, he has just passed his prime. How long do you think we have to wait? 4 to 5 years. Dugu Jiuqiang thought for a while and said. Wang Yu nodded. "That's right. It's not that we can't wait 4 to 5 years, but you can't." "Why?" Dugu Jiuqiang was confused. "Umph." Wang Yu sneered. "Don't you know that your Castellan, Long Out Yin, has the bloodline of dragons? Do you think you can live until he retires?" This F*ck. Hearing Wang Yu's words, Dugu Jiuqiang immediately reacted. "Meow, that's right. The fact that Long Out Yin was a human-dragon hybrid was no secret in Sky Dragon City. Everyone knew about dragons. It was a race with an almost infinite lifespan. Even if Long Out Yin was not a real dragon, it was still easy for him to live for tens of thousands of years. If he accidentally lived for another 100 years, the game server would probably be reduced to ashes by the time he retired. How about it? Do you want to do it?" Seeing Dugu Jiuqiang's reaction, Wang Yu knew that the kid was tempted. So, he struck while the iron was hot and asked. However, Dugu Jiuqiang was not a hothead. After thinking for a while, Dugu Jiuqiang said hesitantly, "If you want to do it, I want to do it. But killing the Castellan and rebelling is not a small matter. Don't you think we are a little weak?" In the end, usurping the throne was not something that could be done with just a word. Dugu Jiuqiang's worry was not without reason. If it failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Wang Yu continued to bluff. People who want to achieve great things should not be overcautious. If you were to stake everything on one throw, you might even become the city lord this time. Even if you fail with the scale of your apocalyptic world, you would still be a local tyrant even if you change to another main city. What you said makes sense. Hearing Wang Yu's words, Dugu Jiuqiang's heart wavered again. Seeing that Dugu Jiuqiang had not completely made up his mind, Wang Yu shook his head and said, "Although Wu Ji is shameless, he is still a good judge of character. He said that you are far worse than him. I didn't believe him before, but after seeing him today, F*ck. Hearing that Wu Ji said that he was inferior to him, Dugu Jiuqiang immediately became anxious. He stared at him and said, "That shameless old dog really said that? You don't know what kind of person he is, but don't you know what kind of person you are? How many people are there in Chuanjin? Even we can take down Yu Huiqing. You have so many people with you, but you don't dare to make a move. No wonder they call you Dugu Songshin behind your back. I just realized what Songshin means." Wang Yu shook his head and said. His face was full of sarcasm. Dugu Jiuqiang was also a person who had his head on top of his head. He had always been arrogant and despotic. Naturally, he could not stand a few words of provocation. especially now that he heard that he was being mocked behind his back by those few old rivals in Xuanzhen. Dugu Zhuqiang's anger instantly rose. F***CK. Those bastards in Xuanzhen. Hearing this, Dugu Zhuqiang directly slammed the table and stood up. Then, he whispered to Wang Yu, "Not including you." I know. Wang Yu replied cheerfully. This was the standard reaction of Dugu Zhuqiang after being provoked, and Wang Yu was more than happy to see it. Of course, Dugu Zhuqiang was not a fool. If it was not because of what Wang Yu said previously, which really moved him, even if he was really provoked by Wang Yu, he would at most stomp his feet and scold Xuanzhen on the street. If he really wanted to attack Long Outyin, he would not dare. But Wang Yu had said that there were a few people in Xuanzhen who had taken down Yu Huicheng. There were so many experts at the end of the world. No matter what, they should be more useful than a few people. Thinking of this, Dugu Zhuqiang asked passionately, "Those bastards in Xuanzhen dare to do it. Why can't we do it in the end of the world? Boss Iron Ox, tell me, what should we do?" Chapter 10:21. The most overpowered creatures in the game were undoubtedly the system guards. These fellows represented the strongest combat power of the system. Each of them had their stats boosted to the highest possible level using the modifier. They could instantly kill anyone they came across. Even a final boss, like the Divine Dragon Emperor, would not be able to withstand a single blow from the system guards. Therefore, for his mission to kill Long Outyin, the strength of Long Outyin was secondary. What troubled Wang Yu the most was this group of crazy guards. If it's to distract the guards, it won't be difficult, Dugan 9 Spears said with a nod. Although the guards were powerful, they could not run too fast. At this stage, the players with agility professions could basically outrun them. Therefore, as long as there were enough people, it was not difficult to distract the guards. Of course, if he could kill Long Outyin by distracting the guards, Dugu Zhuqiang would not wait for Wang Yu to tell him. Therefore, Dugu Zhuqiang asked, "What happens after the guard are distracted?" "You have to stab this thing in the back of his neck." Then, Wang Yu took out a golden dagger. Dragon Emperor's Tooth, special, attributes, none bound, cannot be traded. "What is this?" Dugu Zhuqiang asked curiously when he saw the dagger in Wang Yu's hand. Wang Yu said, "That Long Outyin is a mixed-blood human and dragon. His body is strong, and he has the blessing of the divine light god. Therefore, ordinary people cannot hurt him at all. Only by inserting the Dragon Emperor's Tooth into his reverse scale can he temporarily lose the blessing of the divine light god." Damn, really? Dugu Zhuqiang was amazed. He did not expect that Long Outyin had such a special attribute. Wang Yu said, "Of course it's true. This is what the Dragon Emperor told me personally." "You've seen the Dragon Emperor?" Dugu Zhuqiang was stunned when he heard Wang Yu's words. Dragon Emperor Grizzly was in existence on the same level as the Light God. Ordinary players would only hear about how powerful this boss was in the background story. They would never have imagined that someone had actually seen it. "Yeah, he was the one who gave me this dagger. He was also the one who asked me to steal your guild's jewelry," Wang Yu replied casually. F***CK. The Dragon Emperor is also so despicable? Dugu Zhuqiang wanted to cry, but had no tears. The dignified Dragon Emperor actually sent people to rob them. Sigh. Wang Yu empathized. "You don't know this, but the higher the level of the NPC in this stupid game, the more cunning they are." Dugu Zhuqiang clicked his tongue and sighed. TSK, what a bunch of scum. Isn't that right? Wang Yu agreed with Dugu Zhuqiang's words. "If that's the case, leave this dagger to me. I'll have my guild assassin give it to him," Dugu Zhuqiang volunteered. "No way." Wang Yu waved his hand and refused. "Can't you see that this thing can't be traded? Besides, Long Outyin's level is so high. Your subordinate's stealth skills will be easily seen through. Why don't you just walk over and give it to him openly?" "Openly?" Dugu Zhuqiang frowned when he heard Wang Yu's words. "I have an idea about this." "Oh? What ideas do you have?" Wang Yu was puzzled. Wang Yu was well aware of Long Outyin's abilities. Even if it was him, it would be difficult for him to openly attack Long Outyin, let alone the solitary 9 spears. Dugu Zhuqiang smiled proudly, then said sinisterly, First, gain his trust, then surprise him and stab him in the back. Stabbing a knife in the back. This fellow was indeed an old rival of the Quanjin sect. His level of wretchedness was no less than that of the Quanjin sect. The expression on his face when he said those words was exactly the same as that of the Quanjin sect. That's a good idea. Wang Yu pondered for a moment. But the problem is obvious. Long Outyin is obviously a cunning fellow. How can he be approached so easily? Haha. Dugu Jiuqiang laughed proudly. We can. You? Wang Yu was surprised. You're good friends with him? The rules of the system were very strict. Making a move on a good friend NPC was just as bad as making a move on a commoner NPC. If Dugu Jiuqiang and Long Outyin were good friends, then his teammates would also be temporary friends with Long Outyin during the time they were in the party. If this knife were to be stabbed, even if they really killed Long Outyin, Dugu Jiuqiang would not be able to become a Castellan. Wang Yu would not be able to live a peaceful life in the future. No, Dugu Jiuqiang said. If I were good friends with him, would I plot with you to kill him? Then how are you going to do it? Wang Yu asked in confusion. Our guild has just received a quest. It's to do odd jobs for Long Outyin. We can do this. It had to be said that Dugu Jiuqiang was really a good doctor. After being tricked by Chuanjin for so long, he was able to come up with bad ideas. Hearing Dugu Jiuqiang's idea, Wang Yu nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. Guild leader Dugu is also very smart. If you can't survive in the future, you can come to Chuanjin. Puffed. Dugu Jiuqiang spat. Those bastards from Chuanjin. I swear I won't associate myself with them. Of course, that doesn't include you, Niu-shun. I know. Wang Yu smiled and did not mind. After the plan was made, Dugu Jiuqiang left. Attacking the Castellan's mansion was not something that could be done with just a few words. It had to be arranged properly. At the end of the world, there were not a few people from Chuanjin. After working together for a long time, their tacit understanding was extremely high. If there was a plan, everyone would know what to do with just a few words. Moreover, there were tens of thousands of people at the end of the world. With so many people working together, it had to be arranged properly. Otherwise, if one person made a mistake, it could lead to the loss of the whole game. Taking advantage of this time, Wang Yu strolled around Dragon City. Due to its close proximity to Dragon Island, Dragon City, Holy City, and Magic City were known as the four great cities by the players. Originally, Titan City was also qualified to be chosen. However, because Titan City was located in a land of extreme cold, and because Arceus and his group were living a primitive life, the city's construction was terrible. It was not even comparable to a bigger guild's encampment. Using the word city to describe, it was an insult to the word main city. Naturally, everyone rejected the idea of a place that was in the middle of nowhere. As one of the four great cities, Dragon City's scenery was more magnificent than Holy City, sturdy Magic City, and the beautiful Elven Tree. Standing on the observation deck of Dragon City's Magic Tower, Wang Yu looked out of the city. He saw Dragon Island floating on the other side of the sea, facing Dragon City across the sea. The shape of Dragon City's territory was like a huge magic lock, facing Dragon Island on the other side of the sea. Dragon Island is in the sea? Seeing this scene, Wang Yu was a little puzzled. Although Wang Yu did not know much about the background story, there was one thing that Wang Yu was sure of. In many descriptions of Dragon Island relied on the vast magic of dragons to float in the sky and fly around the world. Later, for unknown reasons, it stopped near Dragon City. However, the scene he saw now was somewhat different from the description in the background story. Could it be a bug in the designer's design? Chapter 10:22. Although the author was a newcomer, he was very handsome, cute. Chapter 10:23. I'll be right there, Wang Yu replied. He jumped down from the watchtower and made a beeline for the City Lord Mansion. At this time, the Apocalyptic World players had surrounded Heavenly Dragon City. Since the Apocalyptic World players had the quest to guard the City Lord's Mansion, Proud Sky wasn't surprised by the situation. He continued to work in the City Hall. Wang Yu followed behind Dugu Jiuqiang and arrived before Long Outyin. Before arriving at the city lord's mansion, Wang Yu had changed his appearance in the Magic Academy. Now, he looked like an ordinary player. As he was following behind Dugu Jiuqiang, Long Outyin did not notice. City Lord. Dugu Jiuqiang respectfully greeted Shi Feng when he arrived at the city hall. Seeing Dugu Jiuqiang greet him, Long Outyin put down what he was doing and asked with a smile, "So it's Dugu Jiuqiang, guild leader. How are things going outside?" "We've surrounded the city lord's mansion," Dugu Jiuqiang said proudly. Long Outyin was stunned. "No, we've already protected it." Dugu Jiuqiang hurriedly corrected himself. Long Outyin nodded and said, "MHM, you've done well. I've been having an ominous feeling lately. Make sure you don't overlook anything." "Don't worry. With the apocalypse era around, nobody will dare to mess around in Dragon City." Before Dugu Jiuqiang could finish his sentence, the sound of an arrow piercing through the air rang out and flew towards Long Outyin. Seeing this, Dugu Jiuqiang swung his spear and knocked the arrow down. He then pretended to panic and shouted, "Not good. There's an assassin outside." As he spoke, Dugu Jiuqiang lowered his head and charged out of the door. At the same time, Long Outyin frowned and stood up. In a blink of an eye, he arrived at the entrance of the city hall. Countless archers stood on the opposite wall of the city lord's mansion, firing at the players and guards in the courtyard. The guards were people who fought back the moment they were hit. Now that they were being attacked, they rushed out of the door without saying a word. However, the courtyard was filled with apocalyptic world players. When the guards rushed in, it immediately became a mess. "Don't panic, don't panic." Dugu Jiuqiang was sweating profusely as he stood at the door and gave orders. However, everyone was in a mess and no one listened to him. "Guards, don't move." Seeing that the players in the courtyard were in chaos, Long Outyin's face was full of black lines as he ordered the guards. They were indeed well-trained killing machines. Hearing Long Outyin's order, the guards immediately stopped in place. Seeing this, the apocalyptic world players quickly opened up a path for the guards. At that time, the second wave of arrows from the archers outside once again landed on the guards. The guards raised their weapons and rushed out of the city lord's mansion with determined steps. As a result, when they reached the city lord's mansion, no matter how hard the guards tried, they couldn't move forward. Ha ha ha! Seeing the guards in this state, the players couldn't help but laugh. Everyone knew that the guards had their own patrol area. For example, the city guards' patrol area was the main city. Once the players ran out of the city, these guards couldn't chase after them. The same was true for the guards guarding the city lord's mansion. Without the city lord's order, they couldn't run out of the city lord's mansion. These guards were very strong, but their intelligence was at the level of a small monster. At this time, under the attack of the archers, they were running forward with a single thought. It was really funny. When the apocalyptic world players saw that the insufferably arrogant guards were so retarded, they couldn't pretend to feel good. Long Outyin saw that the archers' arrows kept raining down. It seemed that they wanted to use the patrol area to kill all the guards. Suddenly, his face darkened. Then, he pointed at the archers and ordered the guards, "All guards, listen up. As the city lord, I order everyone to kill those who trample on the city lord's dignity. We are willing to serve the city lord." All the guards received the order and roared loudly. Like wild dogs that had escaped their leashes, they directly broke through the barrier of the patrol area and leaped onto the roofs, heading straight for the archers on the roofs. Bullsh *T. The archers shouted when they saw the guards charging at them. They turned around and ran in different directions. These archers were probably all agility. They ran like a gust of wind. In just a short while, they had led the guards out of the street. Seeing this scene, Dugu Jiuqiang and Wang Yu revealed a subtle smile. Long Outyin pointed at Dugu Jiuqiang and reprimanded, "Guild leader Dugu Jiuqiang, I'm very dissatisfied with your guards. If this happens again, I'll consider changing to another guild." Dugu Jiuqiang heard this and hurriedly said, "City Lord, I'm really sorry. There definitely won't be a next time. Isn't that right?" Dugu Jiuqiang didn't mess around. This Long Outyin didn't have long to live. "How could there be a next time? That's good. If there's a next time, Long Out-yin was reprimanding Dugu Jiuqiang and didn't notice that Wang Yu had sneaked up behind him. Wang Yu flipped his hand, and the golden dragon emperor's tooth appeared in his hand. Then, Wang Yu grabbed the handle of the dagger and stabbed at the back of Long Out-yin's neck. If it was someone else, they would be a little nervous in this situation and might not be able to grasp the position. However, a professional like Wang Yu wouldn't make such a low-level mistake. The dagger stabbed straight into Long Out-yin's neck. Long Out-yin let out a heart-wrenching scream. Roar! Then, Long Out-yin let out another dragon roar. The dragon's scales on his handsome face were faintly discernible. It was extremely terrifying. At the same time, he turned around and swept a several meters long spear behind him. Everyone knew that after stabbing someone in the back, the next thing to do was to run. Wang Yu was no exception. After stabbing, he rolled to the side, and Long Out-yin's spear swept through empty air. At this moment, Dugu Jiuqiang shouted, "Assassin! Protect the city lord!" Dugu Jiuqiang shouted as he rushed into the hall. The other players of the World's End also rushed in. Seeing this scene, Long Out-yin, who originally thought that Dugu Jiuqiang and Wang Yu were in cahoots, was at a loss. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu appeared in front of Long Out-yin and made a face at Long Out-yin. Seeing this, Long Out-yin raised his spear and stabbed Wang Yu's chest. "Protect the city lord! Protect the city lord!" However, at this moment, Dugu Jiuqiang anxiously rushed in front of Wang Yu. Seeing this, Long Out-yin was startled and hurriedly retracted his spear. As the lord of a city, an NPC couldn't attack his kind citizens for no reason. Now that 9 solitary spears was so loyal, if Long Out-yin stabbed him with his spear, 9 solitary spears' popularity would plummet. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to keep his position as the city lord. Chapter 1024. Roar! Long Out-yin was infuriated by Wang Yu's kick. He roared and reached out to grab Wang Yu. Just then, one of Dugu Jiuqiang's subordinates shouted, "Protect the castellan," and blocked the way. Wang Yu lowered his head and moved behind Long Out-yin. He grabbed Long Out-yin's hair with his left hand and punched Long Out-yin's neck with his right. Not only did Wang Yu have the title of Dragon Slayer, but she also had the dragon bloodline, which gave her a bonus attack against dragon NPCs. Her punch hit Long Out-yin's weak spot. -81244, a huge damage value floated up. Roar! Long Out-yin roared again. Just as he was about to turn around, the players of the apocalypse blocked his way again. Bam! Wang Yu suddenly struck Long Out-yin's head with her rod, which was still in front of him. Ah! Long Out-yin broke down again. Dugu Jiuqiang, who was yelling to protect the castellan, almost burst out laughing. He praised in a private message, "Haha, Nyogu, this is so cool." Dugu Nine Spears had originally thought that he was already very quick-witted when he led his men to lure the tiger away from the mountain. He didn't expect Wang Yu, this muscular and valiant fellow, to be so good at scheming against others. No wonder he could collude with the scum of the Chuanjin sect. Wang Yu replied humbly, "You're flattering me. I just happen to know the rules." Indeed, the game was a group activity that depended on who had control over the rules. As the castellan, Wang Yu naturally knew the limitations of a castellan. No matter how smart Long Out-yin was, he still had to follow the rules of this world. What was that saying again? In front of players who were adept at exploiting loopholes in the rules, even the most powerful NPC could only stand there and take a beating. Wang Yu knew that there was still a huge gap between him and Long Out-yin, so he wretchedly weaved between the players who were protecting Long Out-yin and used them as cover to attack. Long Out-yin's hands were tied, and he couldn't retaliate at all. Wang Yu kicked Long Out-yin's groin, stabbed his eyes, stabbed him with a knife, and used every method possible to hit him. Poor Long Out-yin was beaten by Wang Yu until he cried out in pain, but there was nothing he could do. Of course, if the city lord was killed just like that, then it would be too easy to be a city lord. When his health bar dropped by 10%, Long Out-yin finally realized what was going on. He immediately gave an order to Dugu Jiuqiang and the others. "Guard players, don't stay in the administrative hall. F***CK, what do we do? We can't let this bastard stay in the administrative hall. Hearing Long Ao-Yian's order, Dugu Jiuqiang was immediately dumbfounded. He thought that he could torture Long Ao-Yian to death, but who knew that Long Ao-Yian wasn't stupid? Since Long Ao-Yian had already given the order, the players who were responsible for guarding the Castellan's mansion had to obey. Otherwise, they would be going against the Castellan's order, and the Castellan could punish them as rebels. Therefore, if Dugu Jiuqiang and the others obeyed the order, Long Ao-Yian wouldn't have a reason to kill these accomplices because of the system rules. However, if they didn't go out, everyone would be killed along with Wang Yu. For an NPC of Proud Dragon's level, killing a player who was below level 50 would be as easy as chopping vegetables with a machete. Wang Yu stood at the back of the crowd and sent a private message. "Everyone get out." After saying that, Wang Yu gave Long Ao-Yian the middle finger and left the administrative hall with the other players. Seeing that Wang Yu also left the administrative hall with the other players, Long Ao-Yian was stunned. He raised his spear and rushed out of the administrative hall to attack Wang Yu. However, Wang Yu lowered his head and once again blended in with the other players, causing Long Ao-Yian to lose his target. Long Ao-Yian shouted angrily, "All of you get out. Don't stay in the Castellan's mansion." Wang Yu smiled slightly. Just like before, he blended in with the other players and left the Castellan's mansion. At the same time, Wang Yu sent a message to Dugu Jiuqiang. "Let's begin." "Got it." Dugu Jiuqiang responded and sent a message in the guild channel. Immediately, the players of the Apocalypse came out from every corner of the street and directly blocked the entrance of the Castellan's mansion. Long Ao-Yian, who had just chased after the players, was also surrounded by a group of shield warriors in a corner. Outside the Castellan's mansion, everything was different. The Castellan's mansion was Long Ao-Yian's private territory. No matter how powerful the Castellan was, he could only prevent players from entering his private territory. He couldn't expel players from the city for no reason. After all, the customer was the Jade Emperor. Everyone had spent so much money playing the game. Not only were they cheated by the NPCs, but they were also kicked out of the city for no reason. How could the game company survive? At this time, Long Ao-Yian was surrounded by the players outside the Castellan's mansion. He couldn't use any of his abilities. Wang Yu was hiding in the periphery, holding his staff. He jumped up and down in the circle, hitting left and right. Every hit dealt tens of thousands of damage to Long Ao-Yian. Long Ao-Yian had his own ability to move around. However, there were many players in the Apocalypse. He jumped out of one circle and was immediately surrounded by another. Wang Yu was very agile, and he wasn't afraid of hurting anyone. No matter how hard Long Ao-Yian struggled, he couldn't even touch the corner of Wang Yu's clothes. "Roar! You despicable humans! I won't forgive you." As the saying goes, even a man made of clay has a temper, let alone a Castellan who had the violent genes of dragons. After being beaten up so shamelessly by Wang Yu, Long Ao-Yian's anger finally overcame his rationality. He roared and exploded. The enraged Long Ao-Yian's body immediately grew to a height of more than 3 meters. Tiny and glossy scales appeared on his face and arms, and 2 dragon horns grew out from his forehead. His sharp fangs were protruding outwards, and his face looked extremely terrifying. "Not good, retreat." Seeing this, Wang Yu shouted at the players. She activated her lightness skill and leaped back a few times, jumping 10 meters away. "All of you go to hell." At that time, Long Ao-Yian swung the spear in his hand and swept it horizontally. There were so many players, but how many of them were as skilled as Wang Yu? The players in front couldn't dodge in time and were killed by Long Ao-Yian's spear. That wasn't the end. When Long Ao-Yian saw that the despicable Wang Yu wasn't dead, he opened his mouth and spat out a wave of dragon flame towards Wang Yu. All the players in front of Wang Yu, except for the paladin shield bearers with thick skin, were instantly burned into a white light by Long Ao-Yian's dragon breath. Those who were lucky enough to not be killed instantly were also burned to death by the dragon flame's burning effect after a few seconds because the priests couldn't heal them in time. Hiss! Seeing this scene, The surviving players of the apocalypse sucked in a breath of cold air, the hair on their backs standing on end. Roar! Long Ao Yin roared angrily and shouted arrogantly, "What kind of idiot dares to provoke a dragon?" At this time, Dugu Jiuqiang received another message from Wang Yu. After being stunned for 3 seconds, a city-wide megaphone sounded in the sky above Dragon City. Chapter 1025. Some people say that appearance is justice. Although I, Uncle Nyo, am more handsome than Panin, I still don't quite believe this sentence. However, this was the truth. Most people looked at a person's face first. For example, student Long Ao Yin. At first, he was also a good-looking person, and everyone wanted to get close to him. However, now that he had transformed, his aura had completely changed. His face was similar to that of Mario next door. Forget about framing him as a cannibal. Even if he said that he ate and pooped at the same time, no one would doubt it. Originally, there weren't many players in Sky Dragon City strolling in front of the City Lord's mansion. However, the commotion caused by the end of days was too great. With so many people crowding the streets, it was inevitable that some players would be curious. When they saw Dugu Jiuqiang's message, they were immediately shocked. They began to declare their opinions in the main city channel and in their moments. In China, there's a saying that goes, "Muffled voices. Oh no, 3 men make a tiger." Originally, everyone did not believe that the heavenly Dragon City City Lord would eat people. However, after many people said so, everyone could not help but believe it. At the same time, they all wanted to see how long Ao Yin ate people. Hence, after Heavenly Dragon City's players received the news, they swarmed into the city. Since the City Lord attacked the players for no reason, the players gained the right to defend themselves against Long Ao Yin's wrath. At this time, on the streets outside the City Lord's mansion, the players of the apocalypse had formed a formation and were facing off against Long Ao Yin. Of course, Long Ao Yin was a level 80 epic boss with the bloodline of dragons. Now that he was in a berserk state, his attack power was frighteningly high. Perhaps it was because he had attacked other players, but Long Ao Yin knew that he would be silenced by the system, so he decided to go all out. His aggro target changed from Wang Yu to everyone within his sight, and he started a massacre. From this, it could be seen that Wang Yu's wretched personality had been completely activated by those bastards from Chuanjin. Long Ao Yin was such a good person, but he had become a madman. At this time, Proud Sky Dragon was attacking whoever he saw. He charged left and right in the crowd of players as if he was invincible. Even tanks could not last more than a few rounds under Proud Sky Dragon's gun. Moreover, Proud Sky Dragon could spit out thick phlegm, burning the players of the Apocalypse era to the point where they cried for their parents and ran away. The players of the Apocalypse were like vegetables that had been cut. They didn't die one by one, but instead, they died in droves. Nine Spears Dugu wanted to cry, but had no tears. He sent a message to Wang Yu. "Brother Nyo, I can see that your Quanjin sect is no longer satisfied with dealing with me alone. You want to wipe out our entire guild." Wang Yu replied, "Cut the crap. Get your men to lead him to the small crossroad on the west side of the tavern." Long Ao Yin's massacre of the players could be considered as destroying his own future. Dugu Jiuqiang also knew that he had offended Long Ao Yin. Even if he took the initiative to surrender, Long Ao Yin would not accept it. Therefore, he could only bite the bullet and accept Wang Yu's order. He shouted in the guild channel, "Everyone, retreat towards the tavern." The players of the Apocalypse era were already scared shitless by the Long Ao Yin. If it wasn't for Dugu Jiuqiang not giving the order to retreat, who would be willing to face this monster head-on? Now that they received Dugu Jiuqiang's order, they did not hesitate at all and turned to run. Long Ao Yin was obviously a strength-type boss, so his speed wasn't fast enough. Seeing the apocalyptic world players run away, he aimed at the other players present. These bystanders were naturally incomparable to the regular army of the apocalypse. Roar! Long Ao Yin roared as he flew up and slaughtered everyone, then chased in the direction of the apocalypse era players. Those pitiful bystanders did not understand why Long Out Yin killed them even before they died. However, this action of Long Out Yin did indeed cause public anger. The players who were killed by Long Out Yin gathered a group of friends and killed their way out of the revival point to find Long Out Yin for revenge. At that time, the Apocalypse-era players had already rearranged their formation in the alleyway. After a shield warrior activated the shield formation, their defense would greatly increase, but their movement speed would be significantly reduced. Because of the terrain just now, Long Out Yin was erratic. The shield formation's power was too weak, so Long Out Yin could always bypass the tanks and attack the backline. Now, because the alley was relatively narrow, the tank's shields were crisscrossed on the ground, and the sturdy shield formation directly blocked the backline players. No matter how strong Long Out Yin was, he wasn't a bulldozer. He couldn't destroy buildings, so he could only attack the tanks. However, apart from his breath, Long Out Yin's spear couldn't instantly kill the tanks. Moreover, now that the tanks had activated the shield formation, their defense had increased by a notch. In addition, the priests were also piling up in the back. On average, there were nearly 2 priests taking care of 1 tank. The originally scattered Apocalypse-era army quickly stabilized the situation. If the tanks could tank the target monster, this boss was basically halfway done. It wasn't known whether it was because of Wang Yu's stab or because Long Out Yin's defense had decreased under the Berserk state. At this moment, Long Out Yin's defense wasn't high. Under the damage of the backline players, Long Out Yin's health bar clearly showed a trend of decreasing. However, the players of the Apocalypse era seem to have never fought an epic boss before. They always thought that epic bosses were like ordinary bosses, that they could be killed in a monotonous manner. In the end, this kind of damage only lasted for 2 waves. Long Out Yin's epic boss fighting style quickly grew, and he roared towards the sky. A circle of blue sound waves spread out from Long Out Yin's surroundings. All the players in the chest had a mosquito coil appear over their heads. This was the sign that they had been stunned. After the players were stunned, all of their skills would be interrupted. Without the priest's healing and shield formation, the tanks directly became fixed targets. Immediately after, Long Out Yin let out another wave of breath, and the 2 alleyway shield bearers were instantly burned into a white light. Immediately after, Long Out Yin let out another wave of breath, and the 2 alleyway shield bearers were instantly burned into white light. Ha ha ha! After successfully annihilating all the tanks in the Apocalypse era, Long Gongjin proudly laughed. He stabbed his spear into the ground, opened his arms, and aimed at all the stunned people in the alley. Then, 2 rays of light, 1 blue and 1 red, condensed in his palms. Double Dragon Break. Seeing the light in Long Out Yin's hands, the players of the Apocalypse era secretly cursed. They didn't expect that this Long Out Yin was also a Chi master. Double Dragon Break was one of the Chi master's most powerful killing moves. When used by a dragon boss, there would be a bonus. Even without the bonus, the players who had lost the protection of the tanks would not be able to withstand this attack. Now that everyone was stunned, they couldn't move an inch. They could only close their eyes and wait for death. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.